We are live on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube. At Mike Gill Show, it's rare that you can say you scored as many runs as a Major League Baseball team did on any given night, but the Sports Bash scored 0, the same as the Phillies. They did not get a run last night, and they lost 1-0 in Houston on a night where Rangers Suarez was excellent, didn't get the run support, and, of course, everybody is going to be debating today many things in that game. Half the people are going to say, why did you leave Ranger in? The other half of the people are going to say, you should have taken Ranger out. You can never win in those situations. Why did you leave Ranger in? Well, the other night, they let Sanchez go. It's a no-win situation. I don't choose to look at why he didn't take the pitcher in or out in that situation. They lost 1-0. Really, the pitcher gave up 1 run, and we should bemoan the fact that the pitcher was either in or out of the game. The guy pitched his ass off last night. Threw 1 bad pitch. It got hit out of the ballpark. They lost 1-0. I think what we should be looking at here is, the propensity for the Phillies to fall into these funks, and that the right-handed part of their platoon is really weak. I mean, when you have a situation where you got Buddy Kennedy looking into the dugout, whether or not he should go to the plate or not in the last inning because he knows he's got no shot to get a hit against Josh Hader. Otto Kemp looks scared out of his mind at the plate in his last attempt to try to do something. The Phillies just don't have the right-handed depth to have platoons that they have right now, right? You got basically platoons in 3 or 4 different spots, depending on how you want to look at first base with Bryce Harper out. But at second base, you're rocking a platoon. In left field, you're rocking a platoon. And in center field, you're rolling with a platoon. Late in the game, your last 3 attempts to get a run in a 1-0 game, mind you. It's a 1-0 game. You've got Kemp, Sosa, Kennedy, and Rojas. Rojas, who's obviously just overmatched in that situation. He has a 2-0 count. He swings at a pitch right through it. After the game, Rob Thompson's asked, hey, did you want him taking a pitch there? He's like, his answer's great. No, just take a waffle at it, man. He's like, he swung at a strike. Listen, Johan Rojas, overmatched. We obviously know he shouldn't be an everyday player. They have no options in that spot right now, which is crazy that they have over 3 years of this Rojas thing. They haven't yet upgraded that position. Can you imagine that? I was thinking about that the other day. Rojas came up out of the blue. In terms of they had so many injuries in center field, Rojas gets called up. The problem was Rojas ass backwards himself into a job because he came up here and hit 300 that year and had a 350 on base percentage. So that made them say, maybe we got something in this Rojas guy. So then Rojas gets to come back again the next year. The problem is he has not improved 1 iota. And as we said many times here, look, Rojas stinks, okay? He can't hit a lick. He gets on base by accident. But for him to be the guy in the 9th inning of any game, it makes you think, late in a game, in a playoff situation, is that really your only option? That is the game last night that you look at and ask yourself, if I have my right-handed lineup in the game, in the playoffs, and I'm rolling out there what I rolled out now, Kennedy wouldn't be in that spot generally because Bryce Harper would be in the lineup. Kennedy would not be in the lineup. And then that would move everything up a little bit here. But if I'm at the bottom of my lineup and I have that right-handed group out there and it's the last inning of the last game of the year and it's 1-0, and my only option to hit in that spot right-handed is Rojas, this is akin to when Jake Cave ended your season the other night. It's all I kept thinking about last night. As Rojas steps to the plate with the final opportunity and Kennedy beforehand. In fact, Tom McCarthy said Kennedy looks into the dugout to see if he's even going to get summoned back to the dugout here. And the answer is no. Why? Because we don't have anybody else. You're it, buddy. You're it. They've got a left-handed closer, which means I can't use Marsh. I can't use Kepler. I can't use Stott. You're the only option I got, dude. Get up there and hit. That poor guy is like, please, Not me. Please. Somebody else. The whole inning was just a whole comedy of get me out of the game. And the response of being, who do you want me to put in? It made me go back to that World Series where Jake Cave was the only option you had. It goes back to the World Series where Johan Rojas came up to the plate in like the 6th inning and people were screaming, you got to hit for him here. And the answer was, with who? Who do I have? I got nobody. You want me to take Rojas out and put Cave in? Great. You want me to take Rojas out and put Marsh up to bat against a left-handed pitcher? I think we know the answer to the quiz. Failure. So late in that game last night, all I think of is this is going to be a playoff situation with your right-handed bats, and I got Rojas as the only option to end that game last night. I got Buddy Kennedy as my only option to end that game last night. I got Otto Kemp as the only option to end that game last night. That's all you got. So you have watched that game last night if you're Dave Dombrowski, and that has to enter your mind like it entered my mind. Hey, I was the GM of this team, the president of baseball operations of this team in a World Series where our last gasp of air before suffocation went to Jake Cave. No team should ever have its last at-bat of the season taken by Jake Cave. And no team should ever have its last gasp of air breathed by Johan Rojas in a key situation. You have a runner on first base, by the way. It's not like the game is over with nobody on and 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. Top of the ninth, I get it. They're on the road. You had a guy on first. You have a chance to, like, hey, somebody hits one in the gap here. Sosa's got some speed. 2 outs. You go first to home and make a play at the plate. Make them make that throw. And Rojas, I don't know. He swings at the 2-0 pitch. Some people would say take the pitch, make him throw you a strike, as McCarthy pointed out last night. Topper, after the game, they asked him, you wanted him to take a pitch there, and he said, well, I don't think so. No, I think he swung at a strike. I mean, I think Rob Thompson's answer was a little bit of, what the hell would be the difference if Rojas took that pitch or not? He's not getting a hit in that situation. He knows the demise is staring at him in the face. But that being said, look, in that spot, it's 2-0. You take a pitch. You make Hader, who, by the way, Josh Hader, what are you doing? You've got Johan Rojas up there. Throw 3 fastballs right by him. What are you tiptoeing around with a couple of sliders? Don't slow Rojas's bat up and allow him to. This is how Rojas gets on base, by accident. Don't you have the scouting report? You throw him 2 back-to-back sliders. Just throw 3 fastballs right by him. He has no shot. Whatever happened to the guy saying, here's my fastball, you can't hit it? Josh Hader has one of the best fastballs in baseball. You've got one of the worst hitters in the entire world that you could possibly handpick. You would say, handpick me the lousiest hitter in baseball and put him up there. And you found him. He plays for the Phillies. And you threw him a slider. And then you followed it up with another slider. Now, in that situation, I want Rojas to walk if he can. So I'm not having him swing at that pitch. So it's a terrible approach by Rojas. He's overmatched all the time. And does this mean the Phillies aren't going to make the playoffs? No, they're fine. They're going to make the playoffs. But when you watch these games, I think big picture. And big picture for me is I saw Jake Cave standing at the plate as the last out of the World Series because I had no better option. And again, on a night where you have your right-handed lineup out there, which is what they are right now because you can't hit Marsh against lefties, you can't hit Kepler against lefties. But then the problem is when a team like that has a left-handed bullpen, which a lot of teams don't, but you know who does? You know who has a left-handed bullpen? There's one team that you might run into in the playoffs. You may have heard of them. Their closer, his name is Tanner Scott. He pitches for the Dodgers. You might face them. And if you face them and you have your right-handed lineup out there, I have news for you. You're going to have to figure out a way to get right-handed hitters at the plate late into a game. And last night was a great eye-opening experience for the Phillies to say, man, we got to do something with this right-handed situation. We are simply not good enough. You cannot have Rojas be the guy who's standing at the plate with your season on the line. Can't do it. Now, I've advocated for Rojas plenty in terms of if he played every day as opposed to Marsh, he gets on base by accident. Now, Marsh has actually played much better and has almost refuted that. The problem is you can't play Marsh against left-handed pitching. You just can't. So the platoon sticks. This is what it is. But as we've talked a lot about over the last month or so, the Phillies have to get better options in the platoon. If they can't just get a better player to replace both guys, they've got to get better options in the platoon. Rojas is not a guy who can excel. I say the word excel. He cannot be the best version of himself, which is a low-level player, if that. Can't do it in a platoon role. Rojas either has to play every day and just be a completely average player, below average player, I should say, or he can't play at this level. He's not a platoon player. There's just too many variables that need to happen for him when you only play 2 days a week. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. You guys are crazy thinking the 9-hole hitter is winning or losing the World Series. No, I didn't say that at all. In fact, this is something that I brought up before. You know, we were blaming the 9-hole hitter in the World Series in 2022, right? And I say I'm not blaming the 9-hole hitter. When your stars are not performing, the microscope goes to the 9-hole hitter, because when Turner and Harper and Castellanos and Schwarber aren't getting the job done, the next thing you know is you start to blame others. And I say I'm not blaming the 9-hole hitter. But the point of this is, to the guy who texts it without his name, is if the game is 1-0 and the last 3 chances you get are the 9-hole hitter, then you need the 9-hole hitter to at least have the ability to help you out. I'm not saying he's going to win or lose the series, but maybe he can help win or lose a game. So you're absolutely right. The 9-hole hitter isn't winning or losing the World Series, and I would never blame the 9-hole hitter. Just like in 2022, a buddy of mine and I, we went back and forth, and to this day we still go back and forth about it. In the 6th inning of that game, it was bases loaded, and Rojas came up. And many people wanted the Phillies to pinch hit for him in that spot. And my answer was, with who? They had nobody. The answers were like Jake Cave, and I don't even remember, was Weston Wilson even on that team? Who was like the other option on the team at that time?
Weston Wilson was on the team as well. But the larger point, Mike, is not about who was on the team in the most literal sense. The problem is the anonymous texter is being ignorant, because baseball history is full of teams that win championships with non-star players stepping up in moments. The problem with the Phillies isn't the literal 9-hitter. It's what you just said before. When the stars are not getting the job done, someone has to be available to fill in. The Phillies don't win the 2008 World Series unless Matt Stairs goes deep into the night. The Yankees in the late 90s don't win World Series if Scott Brosius doesn't have major clutch hits. Okay, baseball history is full of guys who are not the stars.
No, it wasn't the 2022 World Series. It was the 2023 playoffs.
Oh, the NLCS.
Yes.
But the point is that the texter's point, he's the one who's crazy, because we're talking about baseball. Baseball is a sport where in random moments, random people have to step up. And in a game like last night, Mike, when your 1 through 5 hitters combined to go 2 for 18, I'm sorry, but if you don't have somebody else who's able to step up, last night is an encapsulation of why you will not win a championship.
And you can't count on that for all 7 games of the series.
Nope.
But to sneak out a game here or there, that's a winnable game last night, where your best option to try to win the game. Look, there's going to be games you have to win in all different styles.
Yep. And
the Phillies pitching, you have to find a way to win a 2-1 game throughout the way. And last night they could not get that out. And now who knows? They could have had whoever pinch hitting there. That doesn't mean they're going to win the game. But when your options are Johan Rojas or nobody else, then you've got some problems. That, by the way, the other option, now I completely remember who the other option was. It was Pache.
Oh, my goodness.
That's
worse than Weston Wilson.
People wanted Pache to be the guy that. Now, I don't know that Wilson was even in avail. He might have been in the lineup. I don't remember what game number that was, but it was a bases loaded. It was like the 6th inning. Rojas had been like 0 for whatever in the playoffs that year. He was completely overmatched, and he came up with the bases loaded. And the argument was that it was Christian Pache, that people wanted Pache to come up to hit in that situation. So, listen, if you look at the Phillies lineup and think that 6, 7, 8, really the 7, 8, 9 of last night's game, the 7, 8, 9 of last night's game, I'm not lumping in Sosa was fine, and Sosa's fine in the role that he's in. I think Sosa as the right-handed bat in that particular platoon is fine. I'm not going to sit here and say that Sosa, hitting, he got on base last night. Again, he's done a great job in his role. He's very good in his particular role.
So Game 7 of the NLCS.
It was Game 7 against Arizona.
Christian Pache came in to pinch hit for Rojas.
Yeah, but not in the 6th.
It was in the 7th.
That's not the game.
Okay, it's a different game?
Has to be. Because he didn't know. That was the thing. He didn't come in to hit for him. And people wanted him to hit for Rojas in that spot, and I think Rojas ended up striking out, as he did oftentimes in those playoffs. And the answer was, and I think Pache in the game you're talking about, I think he walked.
Well, I went to Game 7 because you mentioned the Jake Cave. Jake Cave was the guy in that Game 7.
He ended the game.
Correct.
Yes.
So my mind went to Game 7 first. I thought that's what you were talking about, but obviously it was a different game.
Yeah, I don't remember what particular game it was, but it was a game that was a close game. They all were. I mean, the Phillies lost 2-1, 6-5, 4-2, 5-1. So all of these games came down to really maybe an at-bat here, maybe an at-bat there. You go back to that series, see how many times that the bottom half of the order helped out either one of these teams. 609-403-0973. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. You look at last night's game, the Otto Kemp, who did walk twice last night, but Kemp looked completely disinterested in his last at-bat. He looked scared out of his mind in that last at-bat. Sosa, 2 for 3 last night. Sosa's done a great job. Plays that role perfectly as the spark plug off the bench, not getting overexposed by showing him too much, does what he does. Buddy Kennedy, that's a tough spot for him to come up in that spot, and he gets a pitch to hit, by the way. Kennedy gets a pitch to hit, and he ends up popping it up to shortstop. And then there's Rojas, who's down to 216 at this point here. But that's a game last night to that guy who texted into the game. Let's say Turner, Schwarber, Bohm, Castellanos, and Harper have all gone hot and won you 3 games. Well, now they kind of cool off a little bit. Are you saying that you don't want batter 6, 7, 8, and 9 or at all to help out and try to win any of the games? Are you saying that only the top 4 guys in the lineup can win games for you? I think you're off base on that one. 609-403-0973. Somebody texted in the other day asking a question, and I never got to it, but I did read it. I try to read every single text, whether I get them on the air or not. And that was asking a question about, are there any Matt Stairs left in the game? Guys who just come in, one swing of the bat, and that's their only job. And that's a good question. Like, where's that guy that, hey, he's at the end of the road, but he can still swing it. He can still swing it. He just doesn't play every day anymore. Where's that guy? Phillies need that guy. Guy who just, hey, we know what you are. You're a bat. You're out there to swing the bat one time a night. Where's that guy? They need to try to find that kind of guy. Find the at-bat?
I'm still looking for it. I got the feeling I might be looking at the wrong series, honestly. Because I've been going through the Diamondback series, so it might have been a different series you're referencing.
So the series before that,
Would have been the Braves.
they played the Braves. I don't think it was in that series. I thought it was the Diamondback series. Maybe it was. I'm pretty sure because Pache was the guy. The argument we had was between Cave and Pache.
Was it the game the Phillies won?
Oh, I don't think so.
Because that's what I was purposely looking at games they lost.
All right, let me see if I can figure it out. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. It was definitely bases loaded, sixth inning. Rojas came up, and that's where people said they should have hit for him right there. And it could have been an elimination game. Maybe it was game 7, but you said Pache hit for him there. He definitely didn't hit me. Maybe it was in the fifth inning then where he came up, Rojas. Did Rojas come up in the fifth with bases loaded there?
I'm going back to the play-by-play.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. It's draft day. Paul Hudrick will talk a little Sixers draft. ESPN.com has 2 possible trades for the Sixers. I would do either one of them in a heartbeat. That's coming up at 3 o'clock. Stump the Sports Geek Wednesday. Connor Barwin, former Eagle linebacker. He's a part of the front office now. Going to be in town this weekend. We're going to tell you more about that tonight in the 5 o'clock hour.
It was the 4th inning of Game 7. Brandon Marsh had just walked. Real Muto was at second. So you had men on base. There were 2 outs. Rojas came to bat, strikes out. Phillies only walk out of that inning with scoring 1 run.
So it was the 4th inning.
The 4th inning.
Right. So people wanted them to hit for Rojas in
now,
the
later
4th
in the game,
inning
they
of the game.
did hit for Rojas.
But in the options in the 4th inning were Pache
or Jake Cave.
and who was pitching?
Brandon Pfaadt.
So Jake Cave or Pache against Brandon Pfaadt, who was a right-handed pitcher.
Right.
Yeah. So not a great option in that spot. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. McGarry on the other side. We'll get his thoughts on the depth of this team. Plus, Paul Hudrick's going to talk a little Sixers draft coming up at 3 o'clock today on the Sports Bash. And as I said, Connor Barwin tonight at 5:30 on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Draft day is here. 2-day draft. Sixers pick number 3. Could they move that pick? We'll get into that. Paul Hudrick in the 3 o'clock hour we had on Seth Greenberg yesterday. If you want to go back to yesterday's show on the YouTube channel or the X platform, check that out at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe, share, like. Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Phil's loose last night. You know, it's one of those nights, Mike, every night there's a different story. And as we watch these Phillies this year, we are in big picture mode. And when you end the game last night with Buddy Kennedy and Johan Rojas, it's kind of a microcosm of, like, I'm thinking of Jake Cave getting the final swing in the World Series a couple of years ago. I'm thinking of the night when Rojas came up against the Diamondbacks, bases loaded in the 4th, and people wanted to hit for your starting center fielder already. And you wonder, was last night the microcosm of the game that has the Phillies fans worried? Like, everything's good when you beat the Mets and it looks great, but when you lose 1-0 and Rojas strikes out swinging to end the game, or excuse me, I don't even know if he swung or that was a half-ass or half-hearted swing, whatever it was. And Kennedy's looking into the dugout like, you're really going to let me hit here in this spot? Is this a microcosm of what the Phillies need to look at the deadline?
Yeah, I think it shows a team weakness, right? And it's what we've talked about, the lack of a real major league proven right-handed bat that they can kind of throw out there against left-handed pitching, because they are vulnerable to left-handed pitching. Now, they lost a game last night, 1-0 to Framber Valdez, who's one of the top left-handers in all of baseball. But, yeah, it shows the weakness. When the Phillies meet an elite left-handed pitcher, their lineup is at a disadvantage right now. And no offense to those guys that are in the lineup down the bottom of the order last night. We're talking about basically, I guess, that Kemp, Sosa, Kennedy, Rojas stretch right there. They got the job done on Sunday night against David Peterson, who is an excellent left-handed thrower for the Mets. They couldn't get it done last night against Valdez. But in fairness to them, these are guys, at least in Kennedy and Kemp's case, that are AAA players or began the year in AAA and are looking to make the transition. What is Rojas? We don't know. And okay, Sosa has shown himself in his career to be a hot and cold bench guy. So, it shows a weakness or an area that needs to be addressed. I'm just not so sure there's guys out there that can address it.
Mike, you look at last night, obviously, that's a game where the offense doesn't get going. It's tough right now. There's no Harper. We know that. So you're really depending on that Turner, Schwarber, Bohm group. That's the 3. Then there's that next drop-off to Castellanos and Real Muto, Kemp. But it seems like, one of these guys, Kemp, Rojas, somebody's going to be a part of this thing, right? Big picture. I mean, they're not going to be able to replace Rojas and Kemp and,
right.
It seems like they're going to have to rely on one of those guys.
Yeah, it's an opportunity right now, right? And it's an opportunity. And probably, Mike, the guy who's got the biggest opportunity, the guy who's got the biggest rope right now, Buddy Kennedy, obviously Millville graduate, great story, but he wouldn't be here if Bryce Harper was healthy. And as soon as Bryce Harper is healthy, the team's probably going to make a decision about Buddy Kennedy's future one way or the other.
Right.
The guy I think's got the biggest rope right now is Otto Kemp. This is an opportunity for him to see if he can, hit big league pitching, and he's done okay, but he hasn't hit for power yet. He hasn't hit a home run yet, and that's what his calling card was in the minors, was his ability to hit for power. And can he play left field? And so far, so good out in left field. So I think the guy with the opportunity here to really, make a name for himself or create a spot for himself is Kemp. I think Rojas is always going to be on the team unless he gets traded in one way or another because of his late-inning defensive ability and his ability as a pinch runner. So I think he's a guy that's always going to be a role for him. Buddy, obviously, we talked about him kind of taking Bryce Harper's place. But the guy with the opportunity here is Otto Kemp. And this might be make or break for Otto Kemp and kind of affect what the team does on the trade deadline.
All right, one of these guys has to go, Mike. Which is the one? Marsh, Kepler, Rojas? I guess Kemp is the other guy. Who has to be replaced?
Well, Geez, interesting question
because as you're saying, just to kind of why I framed it that way, they can't replace all four of them. They can't replace, I don't think they're going to get a guy, that right-handed bat to hit in the middle of the lineup who just pushes the platoon out. It seems to me that when they make a deal, it's going to have to be to just upgrade one of the platoons. So is it the left-handed bat in left field, the left-handed bat in center field, or the right-handed bat in center field, or the right-handed bat in left field? Which of those four guys is the weak link?
Well, I think it goes, and this guy might not be the weak link now, but I think the guy, and again, we just talked about it, I think it's Otto Kemp. I think they're trying to see if Otto Kemp can really upgrade that position and give them a right-handed bat in left field that they can use and make that a viable platoon with Max Kepler. And if Otto Kemp can't do it, then I think you need to go out and get a right-handed bat. So by that definition and your question, the guy who has obviously the most to gain in the next 30 days before the trade line and maybe the most to lose is Otto Kemp. Now, I will add this, Mike, as a caveat. If you're going to run a platoon out there in left field and get a better right-handed bat, or hope that Otto Kemp can be that guy, you're going to need more out of Max Kepler against right-handed pitchers to really make that work. So I don't think they're going to deal Max Kepler. I don't think they're going to go get another left-handed bat at the trade deadline. But for this to work, it's just not having Otto Kemp or another guy come through. You're going to need more out of the platoon from Max Kepler against right-handed pitching. I think there's a big spot in Saturday's game where Kepler came up against a Mets right-handed reliever, I think with guys on base, and he ended up flying harmlessly to center field. It's spots like that where Max Kepler has to do damage for this to work.
Yeah, Max Kepler is the guy, who you're kind of in a weird spot. He's making $10 million. Is he the Merrifield that you just say, you know what? We went out and find a better left-handed option, which I don't even know if that exists. Like at this point, you just say, hey, we signed this guy. Like last year they signed Merrifield, and it was about this point of the season where they said, we made a mistake. It's time to move on. You wonder if they get to that point with Kepler.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think they will, and I think they kind of and I don't know if it's fool's gold, but Brandon Marsh looks like he's turned a little bit of a corner in center field to the point where he's at least hitting right-handed pitching, which is something that Kepler has not done to my satisfaction so far. So I think that left field spot is the spot we're looking at right there. You're going to need more out of Max Kepler, and you're going to have to determine whether or not Otto Kemp can be that right-handed bat you're looking for. And if you think Otto Kemp is not that right-handed bat, then you've got to go get one. But again, Mike, as we said, I'm not so sure there's a ton of guys out there right now that can kind of fulfill that role.
We're talking with Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Do you have any problem with Suarez getting that inning last night?
No, absolutely not. I thought he was just rolling along in a game. I think he was at 90 pitches right there. He just got a pitch up and out over the plate. The guy took it the opposite way, I believe. So, Ranger Suarez, I thought was outstanding. And look, the way he was pitching, do I want to see Strom out there at that point? No, I don't want to see Romano at that point. Let Suarez go. Absolutely no problem with him being in the game at that point at all. He was so dominant. Let him ride it out. I think that's sometimes, Mike, where managers can't win, because if he pulls the guy and Kirkring comes in or Strom comes in and gives up a home run, then we're killing the manager, saying, what are you doing? You're treating these pitchers with kid's glove. You're not letting them go deep in the game, and now he stays in the game. He gives up a home run, and we're like, kind of, should he have brought in the reliever? But no, I like Suarez. There might be no Phillies pitcher right now I'd rather see on the mound in any situation than Ranger Suarez.
Mike, this is like the weekly power rankings. It's almost like, all right, Wheeler won. Who gets the ball in game 2? You could probably, I'll ask you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You might give me a different answer each day of the week, right?
Yeah, right now it's Ranger Suarez. I mean, my he's pitching the way he pitched the first half of last season, where I thought he was, a Cy Young candidate and maybe one of the top left-handed pitchers in all of baseball. He's coming back now doing the same exact thing, and it's just the way he does it. He's throwing 90, 91. He's hitting corners. He's moving the ball around. He's fielding his position. I mean, just an underrated athlete of how talented Ranger Suarez is. And, kind of a little bit, and again, this guy's a great pitcher, so a little bit Greg Maddux-like when he's on his game like that, as far as his ability to field his position and his ability to sort of command the baseball and not have to throw 99 miles an hour just to overwhelm a team. So Ranger Suarez is right now out there making himself an awful lot of money with this contract drive of the season. And to me, it's just a matter of can he stay healthy for the entire season.
All right. Just listen to Dave Dombrowski on the Starkville podcast with Jason Stark and Doug Glanville. A question they asked him was about the rotation. He has all these pitchers. He said, in the wild card round or the first round, there's a five. You only use 3 starting pitchers. So he said, in that case, 2 guys go to the bullpen. Hearing Dombrowski say that, does that make you feel like, hey, they might put a Luzardo and a Sanchez or a Luzardo and whoever in that bullpen? Because it's always been, because his reasoning was, hey, listen, if you're putting multiple guys in the bullpen, they don't have to pitch on back-to-back days. One of the problems with starters going to the bullpen is, hey, can you pitch on Monday and then come back again and pitch on Tuesday? Well, his point was, well, one of them can pitch on Monday. The other one can pitch on Tuesday. They don't have to pitch back-to-back days.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think the reason that when there's so much talk of a starter going to the bullpen, the reason we say Ranger's name comes up right away is because he's done it before. Yep. He's done it in 2022. But right now, with the way Ranger Suarez is pitching, you can't take him out of the rotation. I mean, right now with the way he's pitching, and again, Mike, we say these things on these things are like snapshot statements of how I feel today. I might feel differently tomorrow. I might feel differently in August. I might feel differently in September. I might feel differently in October. But right now, if you told me the Phillies are in the best 3 of 5 division series and Wheeler gets beat in game 1, who do I want on the mound in game 2? I want Ranger Suarez on the mound in game 2. And I think Luzardo and Sanchez have the sort of stuff to sort of play in the bullpen. And Dombrowski is exactly right. What Dombrowski talked about on that podcast I was referring to was the 2018 Red Sox that sort of followed that formula. They used Chris Sale in the bullpen. They put Evaldi in the bullpen. So the Phillies, if they stay healthy with the depth of starting pitching, they'd be able to sort of repeat that model. But again, right now, if the Phillies are down 1-0 and there's a game for the Phillies season, there's one guy I want on the mound, and that's Ranger Suarez.
Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City. Let's transition over to pick number 3 tonight. How confident are you that they make the right decisions tonight?
Yeah, I think they're going to make the right decisions. I think Daryl Morey knows what he's doing. Now, things haven't worked out well for him here as far as winning a title and maybe taking this team past the second round. But if you look at the majority of his decisions here, he's more often than not, I think he makes the right decision. Now, to me, the right decision for them is tonight, and we'll see what they do, is kind of trade the pick. I would trade the pick down. I would try to get a player in here that could help me and get another talented player further down in the draft. I would trade the pick. They're in a win-now mode. They don't need the number 3 pick. I don't think there's anybody that they can pick that is going to help them win next year. So they've got to somehow take this number 3 pick and get some people or get some assets that can help them win next season. Because if you're not going to do that, then why is Joel Embiid on the team?
I would imagine Joel Embiid is on the team because he's untradeable at this point, right?
Well, probably, but you could probably make a case. I thought a lot of guys. I thought Porzingis might be untradeable. There are deals that you can work here, but to me, if you have Joel Embiid on the team, you're in a win now mode with Embiid, George, and Maxey, and you've got to somehow make this pick translate into something that can help you win now. To me, if you keep the pick and just pick a guy, pick a Ace Bailey, let's say, for instance. I don't think Ace Bailey is going to help you win an NBA championship next year. And with the way the East is, the state of fluctuation that the East is, the Pacers, Halliburton out, the Celtics, they just traded Porzingis, Drew Holiday, and they've got no Tatum next year. Lillard is out. The division, the conference is wide open. You have guys in a win now window. I know it's kind of fool's gold to say, if Embiid stays healthy, but I think you got to roll the dice on the Embiid stays healthy thing one more year and use this number 3 pick.
Yeah, you don't have a choice there.
Or a player that can help you.
Yeah, you don't have a choice with that. I mean, Embiid you have to take another shot with because there's no value there. It'd be like trading Charles Barkley for Jeff Hornacek. I mean, that's basically what you're getting in return.
This is the kind of lot you choose. And I know, people say, well, trade this guy, trade that guy, blow it up, start over. No, I mean, this is the sort of situation you're in. It's not a bad situation to be in when you look at the rest of the NBA Eastern Conference and you look at how wide open it is. I mean, the Knicks don't have a coach. I mean, if Embiid's healthy, how good could the Sixers be in that conference? I mean, if Embiid's healthy, Mike, I think they're one of the top teams in the conference. But again, is he going to be healthy? But you have no choice. You have no choice but to sort of play it out that way, basically.
Well, it all happens tonight. Pick number 3, and there's a lot of rumors happening. The teams are calling the Sixers. We'll see. And, of course, things have kind of transpired from the Sixers liking Ace Bailey. He didn't show up. Now VJ Edgecombe. So there is a lot of drama. And then, Mike, all the trades that are happening in the NBA. I mean, this is wild. Teams are just getting rid of players because they don't want to pay these second aprons and all this stuff. So teams are dismantling their roster. So something big could be happening between now and midnight.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think the Sixers, to me, they've got to trade this pick. They've got to move down. Get me, and I know they're not going to get a great player, but could they get a 3-and-D wing that can come in and play a big role for them? And can they maybe then get it moved down in the draft and then get a guy or a pick that can maybe be a role player or a bench player off the roster too? To me, that's the move. I don't think they can keep the number 3 pick. They're whether we like it or not, they're in a win now mode. And picking a guy at number 3 is not going to help you win next year. Moving the pick and gathering some more assets might help you win next year. So to me, that's the move. Mike
McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Friday, we're back to get ready for the Phillies weekend series. We'll look back at this fun Astros series. They lose 1-0 last night. And, of course, Game 2 tonight. We'll be recapping that one tomorrow. Then on Friday, we'll get ready for the weekend as well here on the Sports Bash. All right, Mike. Appreciate it, pal.
All right. We'll see you down the road. Thank you.
There he goes. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. On the Sports Bash, and yes, this weekend the Phillies are in Atlanta, by the way, to take on the Braves. Before they come back home, they'll take on San Diego, Cincinnati for that little 4th of July home stretch. That would be cool if Chase Petty got a chance to pitch at Citizens Bank Park, 4th of July. I know he was up the other day pitching for the Cincinnati Reds, and, of course, a lot happening with the Phils. We'll keep our eyes on that as well. Hey, when we come back, Sixers tonight, 3 o'clock, Paul Hudrick joins us to talk a little Sixers and all the possibilities. I will map out those trade possibilities that ESPN.com put out there. That's coming up next on the Sports Bash. 2:53 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. So ESPN.com had a couple of trade possibilities for the Philadelphia 76ers and what they should do. One of the things for a trade, did you see this trade? It was Paul George to Denver for Michael Porter Jr. A couple other players in there as well, but it was really Michael Porter Jr. was the main guy in the trade in exchange for Paul George.
Now, again, this is not a report. This is just
No, it was Tim Bontemps gave two trade options that he thinks would be a good fit for the Philadelphia 76ers.
I'm just trying to keep my head clear about what's the – because, on one hand, you have someone reporting one thing, and then you have the articles like Bontemps saying, here are my ideas.
His ideas, that was the trade. It was the one trade was Herb Jones and pick 7 to Philadelphia for pick 3 and Kelly Oubre Jr.
I mean, that's a meh.
Well, Herb Jones would be a humongous upgrade as the center behind Joel Embiid, and then
True.
You're getting the 7th pick. You're getting off Oubre, and you're losing the 3rd pick. So do you want a defensive stop? I mean, he's an elite first-team all-defensive center. And we heard what Morey said. The two smaller guards, you probably need an elite rim protector other than Rudy Gobert. Herb Jones might be the next best guy in the league at doing that. The other trade was Paul George to Denver for Michael Porter Jr., Dario Saric, and Zeke Njai. So it's basically a George for Porter, and Saric's got a little left in the tank, maybe. But it's really a George for Porter. It's getting off the George contract, and Porter has one less year on the deal.
And a guy's much younger.
And much younger. We'll talk to Paul Hudrick about possible deals, pick 3, and more coming up next.
Yeah, he'd be a fit for Philly because the dude is a dog. I mean, he gets after it. He's a two-way player. He's an explosive athlete. Doesn't shoot off the bounce as well. Shoots pretty well off the catch. Can get to the rim. Very good in the open court. Plays really hard. Loves the game. I think he's a guy that Nick would like. Is he the scorer that Bailey is? No, he's not. Trey Johnson might be. But, VJ is an explosive, hard-playing athlete. And a really good upside, and could be a lockdown defender.
Seth Greenberg on the Sports Bash yesterday talking about VJ Edgecombe. Is he the likely pick at number 3? Is it likely the Sixers even make a pick at number 3? We're just hours before the NBA draft. Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers is back as we take a look at all the possibilities, Pauls. We know there's a lot of them. The NBA is making some wild moves in the last 48 hours. Guys getting traded all over the place. But the Sixers at number 3, seeing what is happening around the league right now, do you now anticipate that Morey gets involved in the game or just holds true and makes his pick tonight?
As we sit here right now, and Jake Fisher just dropped a nugget containing a lot of different Sixers information, and one of the things he said is he still believes that the Sixers will stay at number 3, and that the likely guy they'll take is VJ Edgecombe. And that's the way I have felt now for, I would say, a couple weeks, that's still the most likely scenario. Now, Daryl Morey is not going to, if a team comes calling, whether it's right up to the draft, right up to the pick, or even after the pick, depending on how the board falls, he's going to listen, because why wouldn't he? Of course you're going to listen. So who knows? I think the most likely outcome is they sit at number 3, they take the best player available, and that's likely Edgecombe. With that said, yeah, I mean, if the board falls, funny, let's say Trey Johnson or Con Knipple falls all the way down to 8 to the Brooklyn Nets, who have all these future draft picks. Maybe that's a conversation that happens. Maybe Brooklyn says, hey, we would like to get an Edgecombe who could be like a splash star type player to, build our new culture. And you guys can still get Trey Johnson or Con Knipple, and you get these extra picks. So who knows what will happen? But as we sit here today, I really think it's going to wind up being Edgecombe.
One of the things he said, Seth Greenberg, on yesterday in that bite that stood out to me is he a great scorer like Bailey is? No. Do the Sixers need a great scorer? Isn't a guy who can defend and be athletic and kind of give you a jack of all trades, maybe not master of scoring? Isn't that maybe the fit? Everybody is so enamored by scoring. And maybe Ace Bailey scores 27, but he gives up 37 on the other end. Is Edgecombe's game the better fit?
Here's what it is. The only reason I would struggle with that question in a black and white sense is like Ace Bailey at 6'9" and can shoot. Yeah, I mean that's probably a better fit for the future with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain if that's the direction you're going. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are just really downplaying Edgecombe's upside because his floor is so high, in my opinion. Like Seth said, at minimum, this guy is going to be a very good two-way player, has the potential to be a lockdown defender. Like, that's his floor. His ceiling is much higher than people realize. And the other thing is, too, Mike, look, Ace Bailey's 18 years old. I don't know what's going to happen. But when I hear Ace Bailey talk and I hear VJ Edgecombe talk and I see the way they're going about things, I have a hell of a lot more confidence that Edgecombe is going to be the one that fixes his flaws, recognizes his flaws, fixes them, and develops his talent. Whereas Ace Bailey, I don't know that he's prepared to do that because it seems like he thinks, and look, he's got all the talent in the world. He has the potential to be a special player. But I don't know if he's like. It's nice to have that ceiling, but are you going to reach it? Are you the guy who has that in him to reach it? And I'm not sure Bailey is. With Edgecombe, I don't know how good he's going to be, but I feel very confidently he is going to get the most out of his potential as possible.
Well, and I watch these NBA finals, and I hear what you say. To me, Bailey's the guy who averages 25 a night in Charlotte, and they win 22 games. And Edgecombe is Nemhart and Neesmith and Mathurin, and those guys are just grinders and work harders because they were questioned and they thought they should have been better. Like Edgecombe, even though he's the third pick possibly in the draft, feels like well, he's not the best guy, but because this guy's a bonehead or says stupid things, that's why. I mean, so that to me is what stands out. The way this has been handled. Yeah, am I questioning Bailey's talent? No, I wouldn't. Matt, I can't. I could see him scoring 27 a night in Washington, and they never be good. So the Edgecombe thing. My buddy covers Baylor, and said, "Look, I've seen a lot of guys come through here. Baylor, this guy." He said, Edgecombe, that dude's going to make it. That dude's going to make it. So very intriguing there. The Sixers obviously have this third pick. They're in a weird spot where the Embiid and George, with all the trades happening, teams getting out of these contracts, does that change your mind at all that they could get out of either one of those deals?
No. Just because it's a lot of money, and it's one guy who's 35 who missed, half of last season because he was hurt, and then another guy who is a 30-year-old 7-footer who's had a long history of injuries and is just coming off a second surgery to the same injury to a meniscus. So, I can't imagine there's a team that's going to want to give you positive value for either guy. And as you and I have discussed a lot, Mike, Daryl Morey's not a guy who is going to get he's not going to trade a guy and attach an asset to it. And it also doesn't, as I've said before too, it doesn't benefit the Sixers to get off one of those contracts if you're also giving up an asset, because you need assets for the future, for the rebuild. So if you have to get off Joel Embiid's deal and it costs you a first round pick, that's going to hurt you in the long run, in my opinion. So I don't know. I see the trade you have up. Yeah. Maybe if that's something that the Nuggets would want, but I don't get the sense that's something the Nuggets would want to do. Why would they want 35-year-old Paul George coming off an injury-riddled season? I get Michael Porter Jr.'s got his issues and shortcomings as well, but if I'm them, I don't see how that makes sense. And I don't see a path to getting positive value for either player, so that's why I don't think Morey will do it, unless maybe something changes, but I don't see it.
Yeah, by the way, the trade he referenced on the screen is the one we talked about, Michael Porter for George and a couple other people, Saric being one of them, but really it would be a George for Porter. Why would the Nuggets want to do that? I mean, he references in the article that they've been kind of, they've been enamored with George, and he fits in with them very well. Hey, you would do that move in a heartbeat, though, right?
I wouldn't think twice about it if I'm the Sixers. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
You're getting younger. I mean, Porter fits the present and the future. I wouldn't even think twice if I'm the Sixers about making it, which probably speaks to why the Nuggets wouldn't do it.
Exactly. No, the other deal that he threw up there was this Herb Jones one. We've heard his name a lot. He fits kind of what the Sixers have lacked, that backup center, defensive-minded, first-team all-defense, and you're basically, now you give up Kelly Oubre, but you would move down 4 spots in the draft. Is that a no-brainer type, or do you have to discuss that one?
That's as close to a no-brainer as it gets. Because Herb Jones, again, if we're going to talk about fit, and if you're trading, it's different to me. In the draft, you take the best player available. You don't care about fit. When you're talking about trades and how you're building your roster, that's when you can kind of be a little bit more concerned about fit. And Herb Jones is a dynamite fit next to Tyrese Maxey, next to Jared McCain, because he is a all-NBA defender, defensive player of the year, that level of guy. He is that good. Guards multiple positions. He didn't shoot it well last year, but he also did wind up having a shoulder injury that ended his season. Year before that, I think he shot 40% from 3. Probably a little underrated in my opinion as an offensive basketball player. He's not, he's not a star level guy. He's not going to but he can dribble. He's a pretty good passer. He can do some stuff on offense that makes him not just the defense. It's not like a Matisse Thybulle situation where he can only play defense. This guy's got some offensive game to him. So and again, the timeline, the contract is incredibly ridiculously team friendly. He's still young. Again, a guy who helps you now and clearly could be a big part of your future. So yeah, I mean, Herb Jones, that's as close to a no-brainer as it gets as well.
All right, so obviously you got all these options on the table. You got trades, you got the number 3 pick, and VJ Edgecombe seemingly is now 1 people over. What if they took Ace Bailey? Is that something that we would look back on and say they made a mistake? Brian Windhorst had a bite last week that said the team that takes him has a GM that is firmly not on the chopping block. Does Daryl Morey fit that description?
Yeah, I mean, for this current season, he definitely is not on the chopping block. But I think that speaks to, though, too, Mike. Like, I think to take Ace Bailey, you have to be really thirsting for star power. Like, I think that's like you have to be desperate for star power because, to me, he's boom or bust. I don't. I think there is a world where he could be a really good non-star or like borderline star, whatever. But I don't think he wants to live in that world. I think he either wants to be a star, as you mentioned, averaging 25 a night down in Charlotte, or he's gonna go to a good team and it's not going to work out quite well. So I think I would be at this point. I think actually Windhorst reported today that it seems like the Sixers are pretty much out on Ace Bailey. I would be pretty surprised if they take him and keep him. I would think if they take him, it's with the idea that they know somebody wants him and that they know someone's going to trade up for him and give them something good. I just think if I'm looking again, like I already referenced, if I'm not a betting man, but if I were a betting man, I'd be putting all of my money on Edgecombe being the guy who develops and gets the most out of his game as opposed to Bailey. And again, I think people are really shortchanging what Edgecombe's ceiling is compared to Bailey because I think it's also extremely, extremely high.
All right, so if they took Edgecombe at number 3, does he have a big role in year one? Now, they've taken McCain at 16. There was no real feel that he was going to have a big role. He only got that because guys just started dropping like flies, and then he morphed into a spot. Maxey at 21 had a role, but then it got bigger and bigger. Would Edgecombe at 3 come right in and have a major role?
Well, I'll say this, though, Mike, not to correct you, but like, before the season started, Jared McCain was the talk of the team. Like he was the talk of training camp. In the preseason, he was getting minutes. Nick, if you recall, he got hurt. The last preseason game, he had that really bad, nasty fall, and that caused him to miss like the beginning of the season. If that hadn't happened, he was going to get some minutes early on. Nick Nurse even said that. Like he was going to extend his rotation. He was going to find – now, to your point, not the role that he eventually wound up having, but he was going to find spots to get McCain in there because McCain was so good. So I say that to say, let's hope so for the Sixers' sake, that Edgecombe is just that good, that he impresses them that much that they're like, man, we got to find a way to play this guy. Now, look, I think if they bring him along slowly, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like he's 19 years old. There are flaws in his game. There's a reason why he's not the number 1 or number 2 pick and why there's questions of him at number 3 because he's flawed. He's not a perfect prospect. He's not a no-brainer, can't-miss kind of guy. But I think, Maxey's the guy. He's going to get 35-plus minutes a night. I think Quentin Grimes is going to get something like 30 minutes a night. McCain's going to have a big role too, 20 minutes a night. So it depends on but I could see Edgecombe being like 15 to 20 a night depending on guys being in and out of the lineup on matchups, because there's going to be times where Nick Nurse can use 3 guards, and that's going to extend how much he can play.
I was just and I was going to just ask you that. Like, can they play those 3 guys together? Maxey, McCain, Edgecombe. Can they play, or Grimes, Edgecombe, Maxey? Can you do that? And this all kind of stems from what we just kind of watched here,
right? And look, so I'm a big believer of take the best player available, figure out the fit later. With that said, you do have to figure it out, right? Like you're going to have to figure it out eventually. And so I think Quentin Grimes has the ability to guard up right now. I think he can do it against certain wings. I think he can guard them and do it and be okay. And get through some minutes doing that. Edgecombe, I think, might have to adjust to the NBA a little bit more before he can do that. But I do think once he gets adjusted, once he's assimilated to the league, I think he's going to have the capability to guard up too. So I think, like Nick Nurse, a couple things. One, we saw in Toronto, he's not afraid to play 2 small guards together. If they're going to play hard and they're going to play defense and try to play defense, he'll play them together. And I don't think he's going to be afraid to play 3-guard lineups. I keep pulling this example out too, Mike. When Yabusele was playing well and guys were actually healthy for like a minute, it was debate whether Yabusele should start next to Embiid because he might not be a perfect fit. And Nick Nurse said, at some point, I have to play the best 5 guys I have, and it's up to them to figure it out. So I think that's where it kind of sits with a guy like Edgecombe. Like, if he pushes and he winds up being that good where it's like, wow, like, we got to play this kid. He's given us way too much. He's really coming. Like, you figure it out, and and it's up to the team to kind of figure out how it all works.
So my question I want to get from you, Paul Hudrick, Liberty Ballers, who's the guy you really like and think he'd be the great fit, but 3 is too high to take him?
Trey Johnson is a guy I've liked from the. I mean, to me, if they just took Trey Johnson at 3, I actually don't think it would be a bad pick. But with that said, if you're Darren Moore and you can maneuver some things, knowing that people would like to trade up for Edgecombe, could you do that and still get Trey Johnson? That might be something I would be very interested in. So, like Trey Johnson, I think, and I'm not the first person who said stuff like this. He has like best shooter in the NBA potential. Like he is that good of a shooter. And it's quick. He can hit it contested. He can hit it off the dribble. As a movement, he could probably be a movement shooter in the NBA tomorrow. Like he's that good of a shooter. And he's that athletic. Questions are going to come about his defense. He's on the skinny side, not great getting to the rim at this point. I think that there's a correlation there between him needing to add a little bit more functional strength. Defensively, he was just okay. Sometimes not, sometimes less than, but he's got a 6'10" wingspan. And he's a great athlete, so the tools are also there to do that. So, yeah, I mean, Trey Johnson, to me, I think another guy you talk about, like his floor to me is a really good movement shooter that can be a passable defender. His ceiling is dynamic scorer who can be a great shooter and maybe be an above average defender. So, like, Trey Johnson, like, I think when I talk about like balancing ceiling and floor, I think Edgecombe is the top guy in that spot, and I would put Trey Johnson right behind him.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like Trey Johnson, people like Con Knipple. I mean, there's guys. That's why I'm kind of in the camp to try to move back. Where's the farthest you move back? Maybe like 8. 8 would be the spot I feel that I could still get one of the players that I would like to get here. Is that too far?
Yeah. Well, so here's the way I would look at it, Mike. And this is something that Brian Toporek, who writes for us at Liberty Ballers, I know he's a friend of 97.3 as well. He's talked about the idea of, well, the Sixers can simply take Edgecombe, hold on to him, see how the board falls 3 through 8, and if you like, if a Trey Johnson falls to 8 to Brooklyn, maybe you call up Brooklyn and say, hey, what's it like? Do you want to? Let's work out a deal. You guys want VJ Edgecombe? Let's work it out. Because as we've seen, and Sam Vecini, the Athletic, reported, if a guy is going to get traded up for, Edgecombe is the guy. So you take Edgecombe and you see how it all plays out. So this way, you're not guessing. You don't have to guess. Oh, well, if we go back to 8, that's too far. Well, no. Now you know for sure. Nipple's here. Trey Johnson is here. So you can kind of figure that out. So to me, that makes no sense. And then on top of that, too, Mike, like the worst case. You take Edgecombe and a trade doesn't materialize. Okay, you have VJ Edgecombe, who was a really good prospect. So, like, I think that's kind of the winning scenario is take Edgecombe, see how it all plays out, and if nothing materializes, you got Edgecombe.
Yeah, and you have a player that you like anyway, right there. All right, you got the Embiid George. We talked about the fact that they are probably unmovable at this point. Do you see any scenario where a McCain or Maxey gets moved?
No, just none. And I wrote about, like, I know a lot of people, like, their antennas went up when the Grizzlies traded Desmond Bane, and it's like, oh, wow, if they got 4 first-round picks, what could the Sixers get for Maxey? And it's like, I think we all have to, like, stop playing NBA 2K GM for 5 minutes and live in reality. Like, if you trade Tyrese Maxey, and it's not for, like, for Ant Edwards or something, it's a bad trade, and it will hurt. It will set the team back, because I don't think people realize how important Tyrese Maxey is, not just as a basketball player, but as a person, as a leader, and the culture he's setting for that. When basically, Mike, like, from being around the team, it's really already Tyrese Maxey's team. Like, with respect to Joel Embiid, with respect to Paul George. It's Tyrese Maxey's team. He's the leader. He's the guy. He's the one everyone looks to. When a guy gets traded to the Sixers, Tyrese Maxey's the first guy you hear from. When the Sixers flew out, as reportedly, when VJ Edgecombe came in for his draft visit, who did he meet with? Tyrese Maxey. Like, this is the culture setter, franchise cornerstone guy. And like, to me too, it's funny to me, like, thinking about it like this. People view Tyrese Maxey as a valuable trade asset. because he's valuable, because he has value to your team. So why do you want to trade him? To me, it makes zero sense. Now, McCain, it's not quite to that level, but I only saw, 30-ish games of this guy, and they were awesome. Why do I want to, after that, at 20 years old, then turn around and trade him? It makes zero sense to me. And McCain, to me, I'm only moving Jared McCain if it's like Anthony Edwards or a star-level player that is a perfect fit here. That is the only way I would even consider moving Jared McCain.
Yeah, I know, McCain, very little sample size. Loved what you saw from him. Do you feel that the two guys can play together, or do you think you can get some crazy deal like you've just talked about, 4 first-round picks or some player that another team doesn't want to trade, but they have to because of the salary situation, which you're seeing a lot of?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but, where's the fire? You don't have to trade. These guys aren't going anywhere. They're young, and they're under contract. So, let's see if they fit. Let's give it a season.
Yeah, exactly.
Decide that
I'm not advocating trading either one of those guys. Not advocating trading.
Totally. But a lot of people have brought it up.
Oh yeah.
You don't. To me, I want to see it. I want to see it not work before I decide it does not work, because I think they're both so talented. And again, that the mindset both guys have, what they bring to the table as competitors, as workers, those are the kind of guys you want to build a franchise around. So I am not in a hurry to trade either of them right now, and I want to see what it looks like before I even think about it.
Yeah. All right, Paul Hudrick, Liberty Ballers, you guys got a lot planned for tonight, I'm sure, between the third pick and then whatever happens afterwards. I would imagine you can't turn the TV off after pick number 3. And then Thursday night, round 2, they have a pretty valuable pick in 35. How valuable is that second-round pick?
It's pretty valuable. And 2,
5 second-rounders on Oklahoma City.
And what people don't think about, too, is, you could also, at 35, move back up into the first round, because it's a non-guaranteed contract in the second round, guaranteed in the first round. So if a team doesn't want to give a guaranteed contract because they're up against the aprons or whatever, you trade back into the first round and maybe you get a guy that you really like there.
All right, man. Well, enjoy the draft tonight, and of course, we'll have it right here live on 97.3 ESPN. Thank you, Paul.
You got it, Mike.
Paul Hudrick, as always, at Paul Hudrick, and check out Liberty Ballers and all of their coverage of the NBA draft. They'll have plenty of their writers and reporters giving you all the insight on tonight's big number 3 pick. It's always fun. They were talking about this morning how draft day is some of the best times to be a fan. As frustrating as the Sixers season was, tonight is that chance. It's that chance to turn it all back around. I talked about it this morning. I was on Birds 365, and we talked about there was a Game 7 in the NBA, and it's almost as if nobody cared. The season ended, they won, and the next day, somebody got traded. You're on to the next one, and it's we as fans have all this, we love making the teams and making the trades and making the signings and making all the moves to get to try to win a championship, which you're almost meh. Somebody else won that championship, don't care. How am I fixing my team again? And it just is a cycle of offseason, drafting, trades, making moves to win a championship, and then start it all over again. Start the process of making trades, making draft picks, trading players, moving pieces. And as Paul said, let's see if it works before we start to tear things down. McCain's played 30 games with the 76ers. I get that question a lot. How about trading McCain or Maxey? Starting over. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. It is a Stump the Sports Geek Wednesday. That is coming up next. I haven't given you the category yet. Here we go. Are you ready?
I actually had somebody texting me asking me if I knew the category yet. I said, Mike Gill has not told me the subject. He usually waits.
Today's category is Sixers and their colleges, where they went to school. These are players that played for the Sixers, and you must identify where they went to college. How confident are you?
This is the ultimate Mike Gill topic. This is the Mike Gill would ace this in 5 seconds, and I am probably going to only get half them right.
Okay. So, you are playing for Creed tickets today. 609-403-0973. How many questions out of 10 is Josh going to get right today? Text in your name, where you're from, and how many questions you think Josh will get right today. The category is Sixers and the colleges they went to. This could be anybody that played for the Sixers, where they went to college. That's coming up next. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Text your name, where you're from, and how many questions you think Josh will get right out of 10 today. You are playing for a pair of tickets to see Creed at the Freedom Mortgage Arena in Camden. Good luck. It is Stump the Sports Geek Wednesday. Coming up next. All right, 332 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. It's a Stump the Sports Geek Wednesday. I could have gone with Creed here, but I went with Metallica instead.
That's fine, which is actually makes the joke even funnier.
Are you pumped up?
Hey, Metallica's on my workout playlist, so yeah, that works for me.
There we go. All right, today's Stump the Sports Geek Wednesday. Today's category are players who played for the Sixers at some point and where they went to school.
Got it.
All right, it's the NBA draft. Generally, you'll hear the commissioner step to the podium with the first pick. The so-and-so select this player from the college.
Correct.
So all of the questions will have to do with the player who has played for the Sixers, and these are recent players.
Okay.
The deepest player is 2019-2020. So we're back in a 5-year period. 5 years, Josh. I like round numbers.
Well, I was curious about how far back you were going to go because you could have had some fun with this.
I could have, but I tried to keep it to where it was, in the last 5 years so that these are players that were recognizable and that you would know who they were.
Well, like, for example, Larry Hughes went to St. Louis.
Okay, yeah, but see, you probably would do better in that era.
Probably.
Fair to say. Here's how it works. You guys know the category now. Stump the Sports Geek.
Easy for you to say.
You're playing for Creed tickets. They will be playing at the Camden Freedom Mortgage Pavilion. What did I say, arena before?
Same difference.
So you have to text in with your name, where you're from, and how many questions you think Josh will correctly answer. The person who gets the correct answer and was the first person to text that number in will be our winner. If nobody gets the number right on the nose, it will be the person closest without going over. If no one goes under and is closest, it will be the person who is closest going over. So in other words, if you guess 5 and someone doesn't put 5, but the closest is 3, the person with the 3 will be our winner.
Bob Barker rules.
That is the Bob Barker rules. Josh, are you ready?
Let's do this. I love this music, by the way.
All right, today's category is the Sixers and where they went to college.
Now, can we just say this is the greatest game show music of all time?
It's very dramatic.
But it's also very well paced.
Okay. With the 15th pick of the 2015 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks selected current Sixer Kelly Oubre Jr. With the 15th pick, where did he go to school?
Oh, boy. I actually don't remember where he went to school, so I'm just going to guess where I think he would have gone to school here. I literally don't. Like, usually you can, like, visualize a guy in college.
Oh, I remember him vividly. I thought this was a gimme.
Like, who could I visualize Kelly Oubre playing for? Did he go to Kansas?
That is correct.
Oh, my gosh. That was literally a guess.
Now, that makes me think you're cheating over there.
I don't have my phone's actually on the charger very far away from me right now.
Wow. I remember him at Kansas vividly.
I don't remember him playing college
I watch a lot
basketball
of
at
Big
all.
12.
I couldn't even tell you that he was drafted 15th overall, so you just told me now.
I didn't know that. But he was he was in Kansas, it felt like, for 10 years.
Oh, he's like one of those guys like Perry Ellis.
I think he played with Perry Ellis.
Did he really?
Yeah. All right, here we go. Question 2.
Perry Ellis, not a Sixer.
Not a Sixer. With the 9th pick in the 2012 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons select Andre Drummond. Where did he go to school?
Where did Andre Drummond go to
That
school?
was another one I thought was pretty easy.
Oh, I don't know. I can't even visualize where he would have gone to school. I mean, let me just give a lucky guess over here.
I mean, you gave a lucky guess the last time. You got it.
I feel like, I don't know. What year was he drafted?
2012.
2012. So who in 2012 had a really big man who averaged a double-double probably in college? I am going to guess Ohio State.
That is incorrect. Close. Went to UConn.
Not that close.
Nope.
You're trying to give me too much credit there.
Andre Drummond went to UConn.
All right.
All right. Here we go. He was a pretty good college player, by the way.
Did he average a double-double?
I don't remember.
All right.
I would imagine so.
I'm assuming he did because he did in the NBA. So
I'm trying to think who else played on those. Was that the time
was
where
that Shabazz Napier? Was he on the team back then?
where they like had a little bit of a down period? UConn, was he on those down period teams?
Yeah. Which was he before?
Played
or
there
after?
1 year, by the way. He averaged 10 points and about 8 rebounds.
Wow, just short of a
Just short.
double-double.
All right, question 3. With the 19th pick in the 2011 NBA draft, the Charlotte Bobcats selected Tobias Harris from the University of...
Tennessee.
That is correct.
See, I remember that one because I clearly remember him in that orange. I did not know he was drafted by the Bobcats, though.
I did not know that either.
Like-
He must have got traded on draft night.
I'm assuming he did, although he was traded like 2 million times. So
All right, here we go. With the 54th pick in the 2018 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Shake Milton. Where did he go to college?
oh my goodness, I think he was coached by Larry Brown too in college. SMU.
That is correct. Wow.
I'm pretty sure
That one I
was-
thought was difficult.
I thought that was when Larry Brown was coaching SMU.
I believe you're right.
Because I remember that whole thing when the Sixers got him, they were like, oh, yeah, he was coached by Larry Brown. I remember the whole conversation.
That's a pull right there. The fact that you remember that he got coached by Larry Brown. 2
Yeah, well, I
points
couldn't
for
even
you.
remember what school Drummond went to, so I don't know what that says.
All right. With the 3rd pick in the 2009 NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select James Harden.
Arizona State.
That is correct. See, that's a tricky one sometimes because people don't really remember where he went. He was a weird 3rd pick.
Yeah, but see, I remember that one because I always talk about how the man you see today in Harden looked nothing like that in college.
No.
He did not have the Billy Goat beard. He did not have the tank upper body he has now. He was just this unassuming looking dude in college.
With the 20th pick in the 2019 NBA draft, the Boston Celtics select Matisse Thybulle. Where did he go to college?
I know it was Northwest. I know it was in the Northwest of the United States. Because I remember I used to watch his vlogs and he talked about this. Was it Washington?
That is correct.
Because I remember him in the vlogs he did. Remember he was in the bubble? He like vlogged like almost every day down in the NBA bubble with the Sixers. And like he talked about like, oh, I went to the Northwest because it was close to home. And it was a whole like episode.
I do not remember that.
Yeah. I was watching all those episodes because I was fascinated what the bubble looked like.
All right, here we go.
I can't believe I got 5. This is incredible.
You were easily amused.
I am easily amused. This is very true.
All right. Let's see. Where am I at here? Oh, there we go. All right, number 7. We're on question number 7. Question 7. With the 46th pick in the 2009 NBA draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Danny Green. Where did Danny Green go to college?
This is an incredible question because I don't remember Danny Green playing in college,
Ooh.
which is probably not going to help my case. Where did Danny Green go? I feel like he was the kind of guy who like went to like a name school. So I'm gonna guess
Name brand.
Yeah, like a name brand. Unlike Shake Milton.
Ace Bailey.
Oh, unlike Ace Bailey. I was gonna go with Shake Milton, but sure, Ace Bailey too. Danny Green, did he go to Michigan?
Ooh, that is incorrect. Danny Green went to UNC.
Oh, much bigger name. Never mind.
Pretty big name school.
Very big name school.
Yes. Okay, 3 more opportunities to score points.
So he played with like Tyler Halliburton, probably.
Don't know.
It's fine.
With the 49th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Isaiah Joe. Where did he go to college?
Did he go to Oklahoma State?
That is incorrect. He went to Arkansas.
Right part of the country, wrong state.
Yes. It's not a bad guess. 2 questions left. 5 correct answers.
Yep.
Okay. Here we go. 2 more. Let's see if he can get up to 7.
Let's find out. Let's see if I can reach the pinnacle.
With the 3rd pick in the 2007 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Al Horford. Where did he go to college?
Florida. That was easy.
That is correct.
He's part of that back-to-back national championship team. Him, Joakim Noah, all those guys.
Okay. Well, they're not all hard. Some of them are hard. Some of them are medium. Some are gimmies. It's up to you to get them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure somebody in the car is saying, I knew Danny Green went to UNC.
Most likely. All right, final question.
Probably why my phone is buzzing over there. There's probably somebody texting me telling me how did I know Danny Green went to UNC.
Could be. With the 9th pick in the 2013 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Trey Burke. Where did he go to college?
Michigan?
That is correct. Michigan.
When did Trey Burke play for the Sixers? I don't remember this.
A couple of years ago, actually. He
Really?
played, he got traded to the Sixers from Dallas. Played 25 games for the Sixers in the 2019-2020 season.
I mean, that is the epitome of a cup of coffee.
That's a cup of coffee. There you go. 7 correct. If you guess 7, you are in the mix. Who was the first person to text in the number 7? We will go through all the text messages. Appreciate everybody texting in and playing along on this week's Stump the Sports Geek. We'll do it again next week. This week's winner got a pair of tickets to go see Creed at the Freedom Mortgage Pavilion. 7 questions right. Enjoy the draft tonight. Who will be the 3rd pick? Will it be Baylor's VJ Edgecombe? Will it be Rutgers' Ace Bailey? Or somebody else? Maybe Trey Johnson from Texas. Maybe Con Kneppel from Duke. Find out tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up next, it is today's Unsportsmanlike Moment of the Day.
You already started the renovation. Rip it down to the studs. Rip it down to the studs. Why keep those guys around? Even with Jaylen Brown and Derek White next season, you're not winning a championship. So go ahead and tear it down to the studs. Those guys have a tremendous amount of value. Plan on rebuilding this thing for 26, 27 when Jason Tatum is back and healthy in your lineup and being able to surround him with young athletic talent that can allow you to contend and open up another championship window.
Chris Canty said that this morning on Unsportsmanlike on 97.3 ESPN. It's the Unsportsmanlike moment of the day. It's an interesting take. If you're the Celtics, do you just rip it down and start over, and then when Tatum is back, he has a whole new supporting cast? That's the way these NBA teams almost have to look at it nowadays, is how many shots, bites of the apple do we get with the current core that we have before it's time to reshuffle the deck and start over? 7 different champions in 7 different years. The NBA is spun upside down on its head. 10 years ago when the Sixers got into the process, the conversation was back then, if you're not the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed, you ain't winning the NBA championship. You need to be the best team during the regular season to win. Well, the league has changed now, so much so that a team that won the championship 2 years ago, the Boston Celtics, a team that won the championship 3 years ago, the Denver Nuggets, have already fired their coach, fired their GM, and then mentioned the possibility of trading Jokic. It's crazy how fast things move in these NBA circles, but he might not be wrong, because this year Jaylen Brown is probably good enough to get you into the middle of the pack, keep you in the playoff mix, but then what does that do? It makes you not have a draft choice to be able to get that high-level player so that when Tatum comes back, are they in a situation 1 year older that they're ready to compete again? So, is he right? Should they strip it down to the studs?
I think you got to keep Jaylen Brown. I think that he is too important to the team's short and long-term success. I don't think that's the guy you trade. Look, you traded Holiday, you traded Porzingis because, let's be realistic, neither one of those guys was going to help you win anymore. Their windows had expired. I think Jaylen Brown is not expired milk. He does not have expiration date yet.
Is Jaylen Brown, though, the guy that is good enough by himself to keep the Celtics afloat until Tatum gets back?
Keep him afloat? Sure. Win a championship? Nah.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Well, we'll see if they cut it down to the core, to the studs. They already traded Porzingis and Drew Holiday. And according to Shams Charania, the phone is ringing off the hook in Boston. So what's next for them? We'll discuss later on in the show. Coming up, it's football at 4. Jeff Mosher's in the house. We'll talk a little birds next. NFC, supremacy. Who's got it? Next on the Sports Bash. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast is here. You can get that on all podcasting platforms. And, of course, it's a Wednesday edition of Football at 4. Jeff Mosher also writes for PhillyVoice.com. And he had a nice piece up there that I was reading last night about some of the free agent additions into the tight end room. And it's funny, Moshe, I was reading that. I kept thinking back to the time that a big topic of conversation was Dallas Goedert not returning. And now that he has returned, you write, the Eagles have a deep tight end room. This was a room that we were scratching our heads and wondering what they were going to do there. And they all kind of gathered this week. And as they get together, how do you view, you talked to Goedert last week and how this offense might look different, but is that position going to look different? And are their roles going to be different? Looks like we got a bad connection with Jeff Mosher there. We'll try to reconnect with him on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff Mosher, by the way, you can read this article. TEU shows depth of Birds tight end room. They are there for the Tight End University, which is something that has kind of happened. It's another season where all the tight ends, it's a 3-day summit for tight ends, and all the tight ends around the league get together. And it's in Nashville. They all get down there, and Dallas Goedert is there along with Grant Calcaterra, E.J. Jenkins. The two free agent signings, Kalen Granson and Harrison Bryant, aren't there. So we got Jeff Mosher back on the line here. And, Jeff, this tight end university is happening down in Nashville. It's the week where tight ends kind of are celebrated. And as you write about this here, that, with Goedert, we didn't know if he was going to come back. We were wondering how this room would look. And then as you write how deep this room is, and I'm wondering, is that position going to change, evolve, or be different now with the new offensive play caller?
Well, it certainly has the opportunity to evolve. And one thing I wrote was that I can't remember a tight end room that deep and that experienced. I mean, you can look at the Super Bowl team, the first one in 2017, where you had Dallas Goedert. You had Zach Ertz and you had Brent Selleck. A lot of experience and talent there. And you even had Trey Burton, who I think was in his second, maybe third year at the time. I forget. So there was some good and Burton was a guy who played quarterback at times at Florida and was sort of that offensive weapon type. So they had a good diversity of skill set. But, Mike, right behind Dallas Goedert now, you have 3 fourth-round picks. One of them is Grant Calcaterra, who's been playing for them for the last 3 years. And then Kylan Granson and Harrison Bryant are both fourth-round picks who were in situations with quarterbacks, bad offenses. Bryant won the Mackey Award in college. So, I mean, he came into the league with some potential to catch the ball. I believe it was over 1,000 yards and around double-digit touchdowns. And when he was at, I think it was FAU that he went to school at. So that's pretty good when you could say you have 3 fourth-round picks who all have NFL experience behind your starter, and then even a guy like E.J. Jenkins, who's been with the team, who's a converted wide receiver. The guy's 260 pounds, and they've been really working on getting his blocking acumen up. So that's another guy who's going to be in the mix. And a guy like Cameron Latu, they got from the Niners. He was, I believe, a 3rd or 4th round pick also. So he hasn't. Nick Muse from Vikings.
Yep.
So you got a lot of guys here who have experience and can do things, and they're not all going to make it.
Jeff, we look at this tight end room. You got Goedert. What's the room in your mind? Who's got the best shot at getting the next reps behind him? Is it still Calcaterra, or is it one of the guys that they've added and that we've talked about here?
Well, it kind of depends what they're looking for. I think that while Calcaterra has been the guy establishing a rapport with Jalen Hurts, and you can see he can give you something in the passing game, it doesn't give you much in the blocking game. He's willing, but not necessarily able. He's really not very good at it, and it hurts the team at times. Now, Kylan Granson is also not a blocking tight end, but if you look at his career averages, I mean, he can stretch the field for a tight end getting between 12 and 14 yards per catch, and he can probably run a little bit better even than Calcaterra can. So if they're really trying to open the passing game, you could see Kylan Granson being somebody who I thought looked pretty good in a couple of the OTA sessions that were open to the media. Harrison Bryant caught a couple of passes too. So the big question I have is, can Harrison Bryant block well? Can he block better than Calcaterra? He has come from some offenses there and with the Raiders last year and the Browns before that, where they do like to run the ball and they're asked to block. So if he can block, we already know he can catch the ball well, then maybe he would get more of a nod than Kylan Granson. But if they're looking for just pass, then Granson's the guy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting, training camp to see how they, elect to kind of keep that room together, break it up, do something different. Because, as we said, Kevin Petula might want to incorporate the tight end a little bit more, right? And to do that, he might look at guys a little differently. Although Calcaterra has shown he can catch the football while Goddard's been out. He has been a part of the passing game there. Now, do they consider keeping 4 tight ends? How deep and experienced this group looks?
I just don't think that that's necessary anymore with what you're able to use on your practice squad and having guys that you can elevate. To me, it's a waste of a roster spot unless you've got like a young developmental one that you want to make sure you hold on to. But even then, 4 is kind of a lot.
All right, Jeff Mosher, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast, tight end you, good stuff there. Read that article about Goddard because you guys had Goddard on and talking about how things could be different. You take a look at what Goddard brings to the table. We would imagine this is his last year here with the team, but do you look back and say, could they get more from him? Or is this what he is? Because every year we feel like, oh, this is going to be the big year for Goddard. There's so much there. When you look at him, some people think he's one of those top 10 tight ends, but the numbers just don't really break out. He always gets hurt. But could he be, do you think he could or should be a bigger factor in this offense?
Well, it's hard to be a bigger factor in the offense than he was when it mattered, and that was the postseason. He led the Eagles in catches, receiving yards during the playoffs. So he was, de facto stat-wise, their most important pass catcher in the playoffs. Could he have a bigger role throughout the season? Sure. Obviously, a lot of that is dependent on staying healthy, but what mitigates him maybe being in that Kelsey, Kittle, Laporta range or McBride, right, is the fact that the offense is never going to revolve around him. He's never going to be a centerpiece. He's far behind. Well, not far, but he's behind A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in the pecking order. So there might be a game or two, or sporadically throughout the year, where he gets more targets than those guys. But at the end of the year, when like we always talk about the back of a baseball card for a guy, right, when he's struggling, at the end of the year, Goddard's going to, if he stays healthy, per game average be right behind Devontae and right behind A.J. Brown in targets and receptions.
Yeah, and by the way, you got Devontae Smith, who maybe has one of the best, the number 2 receivers in the league. Got A.J. Brown, who might be the best wide receiver in the league. That makes it difficult to kind of fit the tight end in. But as you kind of indicated, come playoff time, when everybody's on higher alert, that's when Goddard can be at his best. So it's like you almost have to wait all season long to kind of reap the benefits of this talent that you have.
Yeah, and you hope for his sake that he can stay healthy this year, be more productive, because this is probably his last year as an Eagle. And I think if you're an Eagle fan and you have an appreciation for Dallas Goedert and the 2 Super Bowls he's been to and the one that he's been able to help deliver, then you want to see the best for him.
Yeah.
And so have him have a nice, healthy year and go on, and wherever it is next year after that, then good for him.
All right, man. Well, you take a look at some of the other things that are going on as this little lull period before, by the way, inside 1 month of training camp. Yesterday with Adam, we talked about the Lions and are they the biggest threat in the NFC. Do you put the Lions or somebody else as the biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFC?
I have some major question marks about the Lions because they have great talent, but obviously the 2 coaches who really got the most out of that great talent are not, along with Dan Campbell, are not there. And those are the 2 coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. So we've seen that with the Eagles, a lot of great talent. But in 2023, they had new coordinators, and it didn't work out very well with Sean Desai and Brian Johnson, and they had to clean house. So I think that those are, I think from a 53-man roster standpoint, yes. they are the biggest challenger to the Philadelphia Eagles. But is there another team that might have it more together? I'm, Kaplan and I sort of argue this back and forth. I like the Rams. I think they've got the continuity, the great coaching staff, the quarterback play, the defense that really came along last year and is young. They're a little deficient in some areas. Like you look at the secondary, and it's not great, but they added Devontae Adams. I think that they're, on their best day, can give any single team a run for its money. So it wouldn't surprise me if we talked about the Rams similarly as anyone else as a big threat to the Eagles in the NFC.
All right, Jeff Mosher, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Yeah, the Lions, I like your pick with the Rams, too. And I'm wondering, we were talking about, because the Lions are plus 140 in the North. They're the favorite over there. But are the Bears this year's version of Washington? Do you look at them as one of those type of teams that they could be a challenger, a team that went to the NFC Championship game last year, the Commanders, kind of came out of nowhere?
Yeah, I mean, they could be. I think about the last two kind of teams like that, Washington last year and then Houston the year before, and they really played in divisions where there wasn't as much balance, I would say, as the NFC North. Obviously, the Eagles are very good, and Washington had to contend with that, but Dallas was not very good last year. The Giants have been not good for quite a while. Just like Houston in the AFC South, it's not like Jacksonville, Tennessee, and who am I missing? In that division are perennially awesome.
Yeah, Minnesota, Green Bay.
Indianapolis, right?
Yeah.
So those teams are able to use this great rookie quarterback season and win a division that's not as balanced, I think, as the NFC North. So the Bears could be a lot better, but you still got to get through a schedule that includes the Packers, who I would put right there with the Rams and maybe the Commanders when you ask me about teams that could threaten the Eagles. I think the Packers, if they can get Jordan Love to play 20% better than he did last year, I think they'll be a very, very good team. I think the Vikings, we don't know about McCarthy, but every other aspect of that team is pretty good. I think they're going to be formidable regardless, and of course the Lions, right? So I think no matter what, the Bears could be a 25% better than last year, 50% better, and it doesn't mean they're going to win 13, 12 games like the Commanders did last year.
The Commanders last year, went to the NFC Championship game. Kind of a surprise to everybody. Could the Bears be that surprise team? We'll see. And as we talked about, a lot of people look at the NFC East, and we talked about Washington earlier in the week in the NFC East, this whole who's repeated in the NFC. No one's done it since the Eagles all the way back. So they've got a lot that they have to kind of buy into. And we talked about, could they dominate the division there? They've got to dominate a lot of really good teams this year. That's the thing. You talked about the Rams, the Lions, just the teams in the NFC. It's going to be very important to win those NFC games this year if you want to be that one seed and get the path that you had a year ago.
It is, and there'll be some surprises. We've been doing on Inside the Birds our annual NFC East preview series with Greg Cosell, where he really goes into the tape and breaks down schemes, newcomers, free agent signings for each of the four teams. We did Dallas, and there's no question that the Cowboys have a lot of talent. There's no question that when Dak Prescott is healthy, they win on average, I think, 11 to 12 games a year, which is not easy to do in the NFL. Put their playoff history aside, because we're not talking about that right now. We're just talking about who's going to be a formidable foe, right, for the 17 weeks of the regular season. And if they're healthy and their players are playing well, the ones that are really good, they've got a lot of good players, so they should be formidable.
All right, well, we know that this time of the year is the list version of the season. Nick Sirianni on the list. He came in as the number 8 head coach in football, and I'm wondering, is that a fair number for Nick Sirianni? Do we not give Sirianni the credit he deserves? We talked about this back when he signed his contract, but is 8 fair? I looked at the 7 guys ahead of him, and if you said, hey, you could replace Nick Sirianni with any of these 7 guys, do you automatically do it?
Wow, 8. So 7 guys. I don't sit here and try to guess, but I got to think that, McVay is on that list.
Oh, you haven't seen this list?
I have not seen the list, yes.
All right, this is a Pro Football Focus ranking of the top returning head coaches in football. Nick Sirianni is on the list of the top 10. He is number 8.
Andy Reid is 1, I'm sure.
Andy Reid is 1.
McVay 2.
McVay 3.
Who the heck am I missing? What, Kyle Shanahan?
Kyle Shanahan 7.
Who am I missing? I mean, Belichick's not coaching anymore, right? I just got to make sure that in my head that I'm not missing some 5 or 6-time champion here. So
no Belichick on this list.
Yeah, all right. Just who's 2?
Number 2.
Carroll because he's back.
Nope. Number 2 is Sean Payton.
Okay.
1, Andy Reid. 2, Sean Payton. 3, Sean McVay.
Right. Where's Pete Carroll? I'm sure he's on the list now.
He's not in the top 10, so he did not make this list.
All right. Well, I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed with this list because I'm sure Kevin O'Connell is probably on it because he's a darling, and even though he's never won
Kevin O'Connell, he did not make the list, by the way. So number 4 is John Harbaugh.
Forgot about that. That makes sense. Okay.
Number 5 is Mike Tomlin.
Fair. Man, see, I'm bad. This is summer heat is getting to me.
Number 6 is Jim Harbaugh. And number 7 was Kyle Shanahan. Number 8 was Nick Sirianni. So of the group of Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Sean McVay, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Jim Harbaugh, Kyle Shanahan, are you automatically saying, if they're available, sorry, Nick, you're out?
Listen, I think you can make some good arguments for them. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I mean, I laughed at Jim Harbaugh, but he did make it to a Super Bowl. Now he lost. Nick Sirianni won, but I'm never the type that says just because this guy won one and this guy lost one, that automatically means guy who won one is better, right? Because that's ridiculous. You can go through quarterbacks. Like Joe Flacco is better than Dan Marino? I don't think so. So I get that. I just don't know what – to me, it's play caller bias. Or it's side of the ball bias. You know, Mike Tomlin, defensive mastermind. Kyle Shanahan, offensive play caller mastermind. And Nick is constantly he'll always be, and then you just said Pete Carroll's not on that list either. This guy's been to 2 Super Bowls and won one, just like Nick Sirianni, right? So it's that constant, if you don't specialize on a certain side of the football, you just don't get the same respect as those who do. I mean, that's the only way to read it, I think.
Yeah, well, if you're not the play caller, you don't get the same. Like, being the play caller is the equivalent of, like, that's like your way of being a star at the coaching rank, right? If you're not a play caller, you're vanilla.
Right. Now, John Harbaugh is only higher on that list than Nick Sirianni, despite being the same kind of coach, because this man has been to 2 Super Bowls, won one, and is literally in the playoffs every year with different quarterbacks now. I mean, he's had to, like, accomplish some of the most difficult things in sports compared to, say, Kyle Shanahan, who's just been an offensive play caller on and had really good teams, right? And he's on the list with no Super Bowl wins. But look at what John Harbaugh had to do, his resume, just to get on that list as a guy who doesn't specialize on one side of the ball. And that's where the unfairness is.
All right, Jeff Mosher, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast here on the Sports Bash Live. Check out his coverage of the Eagles and Philly sports over at phillyvoice.com. He's got plenty of more this week. Got a good Phillies article up there as well. Check out all of that stuff at phillyvoice.com. And, of course, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. All right, Moshe, we'll talk to you.
Mike, real quick. You want to have fun? My Philly voice story today. I did 20 years of Eagles drafting safeties going back to 2005, and how every single one of them was basically a miss. None of them, I mean, there were some that were okay. Nate Allen was okay. None of them signed a long-term second contract with the Eagles. Is that not amazing? 20 years.
That's unbelievable.
15 safeties, I believe, was the number, and not one of them was able to see a long-term second contract with the Eagles.
I thought Nate Allen was going to be the one.
We all did. Then he had the torn patellar, and he's one of the few on that list that actually re-signed, but it was a 1-year deal, and then it was just kind of an okay year, and then he went off to the Raiders and got hurt again. But, man, far more far better in free agency with their safeties and draft. So you hope that Andrew Makuba, he's battling some ghosts here. So that's what they hope.
Well, hopefully they can, defeat that ghost at safety and the back-to-back NFC East thing. That number, 20 years and counting, no back-to-back NFC East champions. Jeff Mosher, all right, buddy, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, by the way, I'm Team Edgecombe if you care.
I do care. Team Edgecombe. Yeah, I'm out on Ace Bailey. I'd be on the Edgecombe camp as well. I'm actually trade back. I'm on team trade back.
I hear that, but I want Edgecombe. I love the attitude, the hustle, the versatility, the athleticism. I just feel like he's got an opportunity to develop better than some of the other guys because the floor is, the ceiling will be really high for him.
I can get on that. Hey, listen, if they make a pick at 3, Edgecombe would be my guy.
There you go. All right, man. Take care.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you on Monday with a Mosher Monday mailbag here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Hill. What's up? Nuggets are on the way this hour, brought to you by Broadleaf Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning. See if the Phil's lineup has dropped. They're on the west. They're in the Central Time Zone, so Phil's lineup has been a little later this week because they're out in Houston. Came out right about this time yesterday. We do a quick check-in on that before the Nuggets coming up. Astros lineup is out. Pena is leading off. Paredes, Altuve, Smith, Walker, Myers, Hummel, Trammell. Colton Gordon is the pitcher tonight, by the way, that the Phillies will face. More Sports Bash on the way. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. All right, 429 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video on the X platform. We're excited about Beach Stock coming up Saturday in Margate. 97.3 ESPN invites you to the planet's biggest beach party with free admission, no beach badges. Lots of live music, food trucks, beach games. Even Miss New Jersey's going to be there. Oh, yeah. Sports Bash on location, park and ride, the free jitney all day. Beach Stock 2025 Saturday in Margate. Details, margatehasmore.com. Thanks to our friends at the New Jersey Lottery. Play the Sure Thing scratch-off games from the New Jersey Lottery. That is on Saturday. Now, tomorrow we're going to be live at Tuckahoe Inn in Marmora, Beasley's Point, wherever you want to be. Whatever town you want to call it. Ventnor Social on Friday, so 2 chances to see us out on location Thursday and Friday. The Sports Bash live on location. Nick Earnshaw is host of the Shift podcast, and he is the producer of The Locker Room on 97.3 ESPN weekends. And, of course, it's Nick's Nuggets now. It's brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. He joins me now on the Sports Bash. All right, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, Mike Gill, what's going on? I'm looking forward to Friday. Wish I could be there tomorrow, but Friday I'll be on site with you, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for that, the Ventnor Social. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to need to break down a lot of what's going to happen tonight for the next couple of days because, you know, the Nuggets, we have to start with the Sixers today. I mean, there's no question about it. It's draft day. It's an exciting time. You know what? That's the wrong word. I think that's the wrong E word for tonight. I'm not excited about tonight. I'm eager for tonight, Mike. Okay, that's the right E word that you have to use for tonight. I'm eager to see what the 76ers will do. I mean, I'm not believing any reports coming out up until draft night. Like, until the draft starts tonight, 8 o'clock, then I'll believe reports. But right now, yeah, I've seen everything across the book. Oh, Paul George, there's been trade talks about him. Oh, the Sixers are going to stay put at 3. Oh, they're not going to take Ace Bailey. Oh, they're going to take Ace Bailey. I have seen everything across the book of what the 76ers could do tonight. So, with that, Mike, my final answer for tonight, I want to get yours too, of what will happen with the 76ers is I think they're going to stay put at 3 and take VJ Edgecombe. That is my prediction for tonight. Mike Gill, what say you?
Yeah, I think if they stay at 3, they will take Edgecombe. I think that's the pick right now, and I think they will most likely do that. Now, I do think there is a good percentage, like 40%, that they get a trade offer and they move. They have the 3rd pick, and I think teams are going to be calling. Look what's going on in the NBA right now. Teams are calling and dumping and trying to get out of salaries and moving things around. We've seen Porzingis get traded, Drew Holiday get traded, Bane got traded, obviously Durant got traded. These are some big names that are getting traded. So I think teams are trying to get out of these deals and move on. And if the Sixers say, if somebody makes a call and says, hey, we got this guy, we don't really want to get rid of him, but we have to, they would be listening.
I agree. But that was my question. What do you think? If you had to choose slam dunk right now, your final answer before 8 o'clock, because we know anything can happen. This is just our prediction. You had to make one. What do they do? Do they stay put? Just forget all the noise. What does Mike Gill say? I think they stay put. That is my final answer because I can't take any more reports. It's just draft slop, Mike, at this point. The final answer, you have to give one prediction.
I think they make the pick at 3 and end up taking Edgecombe.
All right, so we're in agreement. We're in lockstep in Nugget number 1. There's been so many reports out there. This is a big night for the 76ers. I mean, this is a pick and a draft that's going to determine the next couple of years and kind of set up the future for them no matter what, without Embiid, with Embiid. So it does not matter. It's a big pick no matter what. This is a huge night for Daryl Morey. Listen, he's drafted well in the past. Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, B-Ball Paul. I mean, he's had guys that are NBA players that may not be here. By the way, Isaiah Joe, another name that could have stuck around, but he's an NBA champion now with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Just to put that out there. This is a massive night for the 76ers organization, and they have to get it right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They have to get it right if they want to be successful next year and going forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, one thing about Edgecombe that does interest me is the fact that he doesn't have to score. That's not where he's at his best. So you can get a guy who plays defense, is a hustle player, does all those things. So that's why he kind of fits into a team that already has a couple of pieces on it, like Embiid, like George, like Maxey, like McCain. You can go to those four guys and have them be the scorers, and then have this guy help you in other areas and then develop his offense. You don't need him to come in, and that's why the whole Ace Bailey thing, I think, is materialized. Bailey sees, I'm not going to be the main scorer on this team, and I want to be the guy that scores 25 points a game. But Joel Embiid's going to get his 30 if he's healthy, 30 a night. Paul George will get 18 a night. Maxey's going to get his 25 to 28 per night. So where does that leave the leftovers for the third pick in the draft? Edgecombe doesn't need to be a scorer in that mold.
No, he doesn't. And I'd be totally fine if they take VJ Edgecombe. The thing with Ace is we talked about it the other day. It's, if he is on this roster and they do end up taking him, all the noise was just noise. They take him anyway, whatever. He's not going to get that playing time. He wants to go to a team where he's going to get that playing time and be the main guy, I guess, with the Wizards or the Nets, whoever, right? He's not going to be able to develop maybe as quickly as you want it. And he is a guy that needs to develop, and he's going to need those reps for the boom or bust candidate that he is. So I think it's very interesting to see what they do. I think the Sixers need to really go for it next year. They have to. I mean, you got to run it back with this team. Unless you get an opportunity to move off the Paul George contract, you do it. But with this core, you go for it. If you can add a nice bench piece, a role player for next year, and then he could turn into a starter beyond that, you are in great shape, and the Sixers would be set up greatly, especially with next year with all the injuries in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you got to go for it. With the talent this roster has, there's no reason they can't go for it next year. It's the number one thing every year. It's the health. That is the only thing that holds this team back ever. And then the drama off the court, too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this team is all, they're in a one-year opportunity in the East where it is wide open with the Halliburton situation. The Celtics are dismantling their team. Tatum is out. It's wide open. I mean, this Hawks team is interesting now. Trae Young, Porzingis, Capella, they've added some pieces. Orlando, we know Cleveland's pretty good. Yep. Indiana was, losing Halliburton really hurts them big time. So it's a wide open field. So the Sixers are saying, look, if we can now, this to me, I said before, the league is changing right before our very eyes. Right. The LeBrons, the Durants, the Currys, I think they're still good enough to get their teams to the playoffs. But I don't know that they're making the deep playoff runs and winning championships anymore. Joel Embiid, Paul George, are they in that category where they can get the Sixers to the playoffs and get them through a round or two? But are they past the area? I think Paul George, if he's the guy on your team, yes, the answer is he's not good enough. But if he's the third or fourth guy on your team, healthy, how far can a fourth fiddle Paul George get you? The question is Joel Embiid, if healthy, he's only 30. He's not quite on the LeBron, Durant. Those guys are like 36, 37. LeBron is 40. Joel's on the other end. He's like right at the beginning of those 30s. Does he have one or two more chances to compete with this young group of guys? That, to me, is the big question.
No, that is undeniable. That is the big question. I feel like people also forget how good Joel is. Like, I feel like that is forgotten. I'm doom scrolling on Instagram Reels or TikTok, and I've been getting these Joel Embiid edits, Mike. And it brings you back. I mean, this guy just scored 70 points a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was at that game. He still has it when on the court. He even showed it glimpses of it last year. He was just hurt. He was hurt. I don't know if he's the same player after all of these surgeries because we haven't gotten an update when they were supposed to give an update. It's been weeks. What is it, 6-7 weeks now that we haven't gotten an update on Joel Embiid? We need that at some point. That would be nice.
No, you know what I want? I want quiet. I want no noise. They shouldn't have said 6-week timeline. They shouldn't have said a 6-week timeline. No. They should have just said nothing. And silence would have been golden.
It would have been golden. But the problem is that there can't not be noise with the 76ers. There always has to be something. So there's always got to be someone yapping, right? We got to yap about something with the Sixers because they always give us some material. And they haven't given us enough material here with Joel Embiid. We need an update. I'm sorry. They said it. We need an update at some point.
Oh, well, they said it. We should get an update. I agree with that. The fact that they said it. But my point is they shouldn't have said anything and just said when Embiid shows up to training camp and he's just out there. Now, I do have a little bit of insight on Embiid that I have talked to people up there. I do know a little bit about Embiid that I'm not at liberty to share, but I feel pretty good about Embiid. I'm just saying that.
All right. Listen, I hope so. I want Joel to be back and healthy. I think the league does as well. I mean, it's just good for the league overall with the 76ers. But I do want to play some audio as well before we move off the Sixers. Yesterday, you had Greenberg on. He was interesting. I want to get back to the Ace thing. He called Ace an enigma. Take a listen to Mike Gill and Seth Greenberg.
Ace Bell is an extremely talented young player, but he's an enigma in a lot of ways. He's been the most polarizing prospect in the draft because he has not worked out for anyone, including passing on working out with the Sixers. So there's very little known. Like Nick Nurse hasn't sat across from him and looked him in the eye and said, "Is he a guy that I want to pair with Tyrese Maxey? Is he our type of guy? Is he a guy that can help us turn this thing around?" So, I mean, he's a talented guy, can really score it. He's a little immature and young. How they've handled this process is mind-boggling to me.
So there you have it on Ace. And you bring up Embiid, George, Maxey, McCain. Embiid is not in that LeBron, KD, Curry idea, right? Paul George is. I think he's a nice piece, but with PG and Maxey and McCain and Embiid, that's a core that you can definitely go far with if they stay on the court. And you add that young player. Now, Ace being the enigma, I don't know what you would get out of him at this point. I think that was an interesting term that he used yesterday. But Edgecombe, I think that's going to be the pick, Mike.
Yeah, listen, the Bailey thing, too many bad decisions, too much drama around him. I'm not even saying he's going to be a bust. That's not the word that I'm using for him. I have said, I categorize him as the player who leads the bad team in scoring. That, to me, screams Ace Bailey's career. He's the guy that scores a lot of points on a team that wins 25 games and doesn't make a playoff. So that's how I see him. He's an enigma because he is a great talent. He is a great scorer, but he doesn't want to be on a great team. He just wants to be a numbers guy. That is why I pass on him.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I'm eager, Mike, eager for tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. By the way, you bring up a little bit of breaking news from Nightingale that I guess, want to share. Is it breaking news nugget, I guess?
Breaking news nugget. According to Bob Nightingale, the Phillies are, quote, keeping close tabs on Lewis Robert Jr. Now, is this akin to my opening today where, listen, I talked about it yesterday. You end the game last night with Johan Rojas. I mean, it's your only option of a right-handed bat in that spot against Josh Hader. The other three guys would be like basically an automatic strikeout. At least Rojas would possibly get on base by accident. Just because Hader throws so hard, if he stuck the bat out, he might nub one, between the third baseman and the shortstop and beat it out. Whereas, what's happening if Marsh, Kepler, or Stott get up there. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening would be that at bat. But I said yesterday, I would be intrigued by Lewis Robert Jr. if I didn't have to give up a whole heck of a lot to get him. He would be a better right-handed option than, obviously, Rojas.
I feel like I have seen this headline and this report for the third straight year that the Phillies are keeping, quote, close tabs on Luis Robert. I mean, it's been years that they've been keeping close tabs on Luis Robert. And this actually brings me right into nugget number 2. Dave Dombrowski. We got a lot of interesting answers out of him. He joined Jason Stark on Jason Stark's podcast, the Starkville podcast, and he actually brought up that he is more intrigued in getting a bullpen piece than a right-handed bat. Take a listen.
Well, I think it's logical to assume the bullpen part of it because when you look at your club, our lineup when we're like we are right now. And again, I haven't been against giving young players the opportunity to fit into the right situation with an Otto Kemp being a right-handed bat. So you can add from your own system in that regard, and you compare it to who else may be available. So that really leaves the back end of the bullpen really much more so than anything else. Now, again, you analyze what's going on all the time and you see what's taking place. But I would say first and foremost, that would be our main focus.
Mike, your response to Dombrowski there, and then the Luis Robert report from Nightingale coming out.
He said I'm not adverse to playing young players. That's number one. I want to kind of address that one. He's got a young player in Justin Crawford who's hitting over 400 against lefties at the minor league level, and yet he's not up here. What's the delay there? Well, is he saying, look, I'm watching Otto Kemp come up here. His numbers were outstanding at the AAA level. They're not translating to the way they were there. He hasn't made that big of an impact. So if you bring Crawford up here, is he saying he's not ready? He's not ready. But does he want to trade for a player who plays the same position as him and say, what do I do in the future here? Now, some people have suggested that Crawford should go play left field instead of center field. So that could be something that, hey, play Robert in center field. You got Crawford in left field. Then you get rid of your two platoons. Crawford plays every day in left. Robert plays every day in center. And that's just how you kind of finish this season out. That could be an interesting dynamic there. But he did mention the bullpen. He said, I will say, now the bullpen conversation is interesting because he did say in that podcast about, hey, the one round of the playoffs, you only have three starting pitchers. That means the other two can go to the bullpen. Here's what Dave Dombrowski said on the Starkville podcast about that.
First of all, you never have enough pitching, as we know, because boom, you blink and somebody's hurt and you don't have enough. But you never have enough. But taking that we have more than five, well, the postseason bullpen is a lot different than the regular season bullpen because you advance past the wild card round, the 3 games. Well, you play 5 games. Well, the way the schedule is, you only need 3 starting pitchers during that time period. So if you have 5, 2 of them can go into the bullpen as it is there. Plus, if you have additional ones, they can go into the bullpen there.
So that's an interesting take by him. It's the first time you've really heard him kind of insinuate these guys are going to pitch in the bullpen. Does that mean you pitch Wheeler, Sanchez, Suarez, and Luzardo and the other guy, whether it be Nola, Abel, Painter, they go to the bullpen? That's the first time you've really kind of heard him make that insinuation.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because we've been sitting here talking about, four, they need 4 guys, right? No, wild card, DS, they're only going 3, so they're going to start moving guys. So that cuts out 2 of their pitchers. Would it be Luzardo? I don't think the way Rangers pitching right now, you can't move Ranger out of the starting spot. I mean, the guy's been unreal as of late. I know last night, gives up the home run in the 8th, but he's been dynamite for this team lately. And, I was one who kind of wanted to move on from him because he might lose him in the offseason, hiring Scott Boras as his agent. So I think heading into the postseason, I think you're right. I think you go Wheeler, Sanchez, and Suarez. And it's not an easy decision because one's going to get left off into the bullpen anyway, but that's a strong pitcher coming out in the 6th, 5th, 7th inning of a game. I mean, that's lockdown. So you might not have to go out and get as many bullpen arms as, maybe we have talked about before.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if they're willing to do that, which is the first we've really heard him make those, because one of his things was, look, if you have multiple starting pitchers in the bullpen, then you don't have to worry about them pitching on back-to-back days. And that's kind of been the problem is, well, you can't pitch starting pitchers on back-to-back days. They're bounce back. But he's saying, look, we don't need you to pitch both Monday and Tuesday. You might pitch Monday, and he might pitch Tuesday.
Yeah, it's fascinating because they have so much depth in the starting pitching. Now you can get really creative in the postseason, which could be a detriment, but I think it ultimately would be a positive for this team having that talent come out of the bullpen. And the way the bullpen's pitched this year, you'd rather have a guy that can maybe go 2 innings, right? Go 2, maybe 3 innings if you get into a little bit of a bind. I trust one of those starting pitchers than Taijuan Walker or Joe Ross coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, the Joe Ross thing, he would be gone. Taijuan Walker, it's funny because he did Wedge and Walker, like, hey, we like Walker as a starter too. No, you don't. You've never pitched him in a playoff game ever.
No, not once. Not once. All right, before I get out of here, quick nugget for you. I don't know if you saw this, Mike, but Whit Merrifield retired, and he put out a statement, and he said, quote, Philly, I like you way more than you liked me. Sorry, I stunk for you. Happy trails, Whit Merrifield, on a good career, just not in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's funny. I never saw any sort of personality like that out of him when he was here. Then all of a sudden he gives you a little laugher there on the way out the door of like, hey, I really enjoyed playing with you guys. Too bad it didn't really work out for us there. Good stuff from him. He ended up – what a disappointing signing that was. You really thought – it's one of those things – it's much like the Joe Ross signing this year. It's like, hey, you got this veteran guy. He's, going to be the perfect fit. Merrifield was going to be kind of the jack of all trades, play all over the place, and he just really gave you nothing.
No, it was time to hang him up, and unfortunately, it didn't work out here. All right, Mike, 3-pack of Nuggets. Gonna enjoy the draft tonight. We were gonna do a little baseball talk on the shift right before the draft too, as well.
By the way, real quick, would you have hit for Rojas last night?
Yes, I probably would have.
You're going with one of the lefties against Hader?
Yeah. I think you probably have to.
So you like strikeouts to end the game. Okay, I got you.
All right.
Let's just throw Kepler up there against Hader. That'll work. Yeah, Marsh. Well. Yeah, Marsh against Kepler. That's bound to look good. I can tell you how that's going to go. A half check swing up around his neck with him spinning around and the umpire pointing at him going, yeah, you win on that pitch. Strike 3, you're out.
I don't think you could throw anybody up there, honestly, Mike.
Yeah. Listen, they would have been better off putting no batter up there and making Hader throw pitches to see if he would have actually walked a blank hitter.
Yeah, that probably would have worked out a little bit better.
That's today's Nuggets. See you tomorrow.
See you.
5 o'clock hour on the night of the draft. We're getting close to the first pick of the NBA draft. You can listen to it right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. We've got the draft tonight to end tomorrow. You can listen to every single pick. We had Seth Greenberg on yesterday, Paul Hudrick on earlier today. What will the Sixers do at number 3? Will they make a trade? We threw some options out at you earlier today. Let's get into it now. Ryer Sy is back for another edition here on this Wednesday draft edition. Connor Barwin coming up at 5:30 tonight on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, man, let's get into this very important day. How important is it? What do we got on our mind? Let's get into it right now on the Sports Bash. What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on, man? It's finally here, right? I mean, you and I, we've had these conversations and, throughout the Delaware Valley, Sixers fans having these conversations and debates about this number 3 overall draft pick once it became official. Now it's finally here, right? So here's my first thought on tonight overall, and we'll get more into specifics and, guys we like and the big name targets. But Tyrese Halliburton goes down in Game 7 with an Achilles tear, right? There's eight Achilles tears this year, this past NBA season. You look at the Eastern Conference in particular. It stinks. I mean, I think if me and you get a group of 5 guys in Atlantic County, we can maybe sneak in the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference. That's how weak and wide open the East is this year. So I start our conversation with that because how does that impact your thinking if you're Daryl Morey leading into tonight?
It's got to change it a little bit and see what Boston's doing, breaking things down, trading Drew Holiday, trading Porzingis, right, and saying, look, we're wide open right now. That means to me he's got to be wide open for business too. I mean, if one of these teams calls and says, hey, listen, I got a guy that I really don't want to trade, but I have to, that guy might not have been a potential option for you before this whole thing, because I think that teams watch the NBA Finals and view their teams differently and said, look at them. They've got second-round picks. They've got mid-round picks. They've got guys not making a lot of money. And I'm paying all these guys all this money for what? Yeah. You might see a team's owner say, look, you got to move this guy. I'm not paying this guy this much money anymore. Let's find somebody that does what he does for a much cheaper price.
Yeah, and you bring up Boston, who's been in the headlines. They trade away Drew Holiday. You trade away Kristaps Porzingis, 2 key components in them getting a title not too long ago. Right, so I mean, if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm sitting here saying, man, like, shoot, the 15th best team in the league next year could find themselves in the NBA Finals. Right, the 17th best team in the league next year could find themselves in the NBA Finals because the top 10 to 12 teams next year, they're all in the Western Conference. And then in the East, I mean, who the heck knows who's going to be representing the Eastern Conference next year in the NBA Finals this time next year, right? So that all impacts tonight if I'm Daryl Morey, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Does he trade Paul George? Does he trade back? And, there's so many different things that he can or cannot choose to do, and I think the wide open East is going to impact those decisions, MG.
It has to, right? I mean, you have to look at what's around you. It's how teams draft sometimes. It's like back in the day when the Eagles drafted big corners to match up with Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper. Like, hey, our division has big wide receivers. We play them twice a year. We've got to get big corners. So you look around the landscape of the East right now, and you're saying, look, we have Maxey, we have McCain, we have these 2 explosive scoring guards, and, of course, the wild card of Embiid and Paul George. I think you're calling around right now. At this moment, I think Morey's on the phone saying, anybody interested in Paul George? Anybody interested in Paul George? Maybe Embiid. I doubt it. But he's probably trying to take the temperature on who would be interested in a Paul George trade.
Would you like to see him move Paul George?
If the right deal's there, absolutely.
What is the right deal to you? I mean, it's impossible for us to pinpoint when I say what does the right deal look like. But one trade I saw involving Paul George, a rumor, obviously, Michael Porter Jr., former Sixer Dario Saric, and
I saw that deal.
Getting rid of Paul George. Would you do that deal?
Yeah, I'd do that deal in a heartbeat. Paul George for Michael Porter Jr. gets me out of that deal. For George 1 year earlier. I think Porter's deal was 1 year or less. I liked Michael Porter coming out of the draft.
No, me too.
Yep. I think he would be a great fit here.
I do as well, and I typically would say, 10 out of 10, and I pull the trigger on that deal. But as we started this conversation, now I look at the Eastern Conference, you look at Joel Embiid's knee, which may be rest in pieces. Do you say maybe we keep Paul George? Right? Are we worried about Joel Embiid's knee? We look at how wide open the East is, right? I mean, these are all just thoughts that, make you say, I don't know if I do that deal. But for me, I would get rid of the Paul George contract personally.
Yeah, if that deal's on the table, Porter Jr.,
Yeah.
Saric, and the other guy, I can't remember who it was, you got to make that deal because, this George thing has turned into a disaster. And, it is one of those things that the fan base has bailed because they have such little trust or excitement about Paul George. So if you want to try to win the fan base back even before the season starts, that's one way to try to do it at least, right? To say, hey, we got rid of Paul George. Not that you want to listen to the fans.
No, you don't.
Yeah. You don't want to listen to that. But the question is,
what if Paul George returns? And I get everything you're saying, but just to throw this in, what if we get the Paul George of 2 years ago? Then that's winning the fan base over too. If you're
right, you would be going through half of a season, and then it would be okay. George has proven to me that he's back to where he was. The one thing with Paul George, and I've said this before, and I got to put Paul George in this category. I think LeBron can still be a guy that gets your team to the playoffs. I think Curry is a guy that can still get your team to the playoffs. I think KD is a guy that can still get your team to the playoffs. I don't think that those guys are winning you championships anymore. I don't think that LeBron James is getting the Lakers all the way to the finals and winning the championship. I don't think KD's that. So Paul George isn't the guy that he was that can help you. Now, the question is, where is he on the rung of the Sixers? Is he the second guy? Is he the third guy? Is he the fourth guy? If he's lower down the rung, then you have a possibility of saying, okay, with him as the fourth option, fifth option, that's fine. The problem is you paid him to be the second or third option, and that's probably what you need him to be.
Sure, I think right now Maxey's your number one option around the perimeter as a ball handler. I think Paul George would be number 2. McCain would be 3. I'm just talking around the perimeter. Obviously, Embiid would ideally be your number 1. But once again, it goes back to the Eastern Conference thing being so stinky. I mean, what version of Paul George do we need? And that's the thing. I mean, for the Sixers, once again, the fact that their window is still open, dude. I mean, we've been talking about this Sixers window closing, I feel like, since 2021. And here we are, 2025 right now in June, entering July, saying it's still open with Joel Embiid. I think that's pretty bonkers, by the way.
Yeah, well, listen, I talked about this the last hour a little bit with Embiid. He is 30 years old, I think, right now. Is he 30 or 31? So he is right in the middle of the LeBron, Durant, Curry, those guys. Then you have this new group coming in with the Ant Edwards and SGA and Halliburton, who's out. They're on the other side. He's kind of in the middle group there and that middle group really, did they already have their run? Jokic won his championship. I think Jokic could probably do it. He's not going to do it with this Denver group, though.
No, not this version of it, right?
Giannis is in that group.
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely. But we're also seeing guys play longer and longer. Yes, Embiid's 30, 31, and I'm scared to death of what Embiid's going to look like this upcoming season. But to your overall point of those middle guys, I don't know. They could be around and relevant for the next 6 to 10 years as long as they have the right roster around them. I mean, that
around and relevant is different. I'm talking about, can they be the man on the team that wins the championship still? I think Giannis can still do it. The problem is I think the Bucks aren't going to be able to get – look, they caught lightning in the bottle. They got the guys around them for that 1 year. It's going to be hard for them to redo that. But what the Pacers did, I think, gives hope to a lot of teams in that mediocre mid-range. What Oklahoma City's done, I don't know that will be duplicated again because they were able
they got lucky.
Well, they were able to stockpile so many draft choices as a safety net to their draft picks, and they hit on all the draft picks.
Right. They hit on it and then some. I mean, they're looking around like saying, we got too much gold. I mean, it's what a crazy, unique problem for them to have. Same with San Antonio, by the way. All the rumors about them with the number 2 overall pick, they're going to end up drafting Dylan Harper tonight. And you talk about Steven Castle, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, Wemby. They could have traded for Kevin Durant, and they said, we'd rather go with Dylan Harper than we would Kevin Durant. I mean, it's just crazy what these teams out west, particularly San Antonio and OKC, have in their future.
Yeah, and I look at what Philadelphia, like we talked about, should they get involved in the Durant thing? I said no. I think you just got to say, look, that era of player they have their role. I think, look, by the way, I think Durant's an interesting fit with Houston because they're so young.
It's a perfect fit. I mean, my goodness, talk about a guy with 9 lives. Kevin Durant, I mean, how many more perfect situations can you end up in your career, dude? I mean, he's in a perfect position to win a title again. We talked about this. Heck, when he went to Phoenix originally, obviously it panned out to be crap. When he went to Brooklyn originally, obviously panned out to be crap. When he became heel and went to Golden State, I mean, this dude has been in more championship aspiration situations than any athlete in the history of mankind.
I'm not even sure, though, that I like the deal for Houston.
They didn't give up that much, MG.
I think, you got Green, who was, the 3rd pick in the draft. He's averaging 20 a game. He's a young kid. I mean,
sure.
You're going to be Houston and saying, how many bites of the apple do I get with Durant? Meanwhile, that kid's going to be playing in Phoenix, maybe scoring 23 a night, and they might even trade him. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows about that? I agree with that. I mean, Houston last year, they drafted, his name's forgetting me. Houston last year had the number 3 overall pick. And this all ties into Ace Bailey, not to get too sidetracked, but I forget his name last year, number 3 overall pick. He didn't see a second on the floor because of how good they were, Houston, last year. So, I mean, that's a guy now that's going to get this Houston team has so much depth. They really like Fred VanVleet. I love Freddie, too. Who doesn't? You have KD, who doesn't.
They just signed him to a 2-year, $50 million extension.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, I don't know. I think Houston's in. KD's interesting. I get what you're saying. KD's a tough one at this stage in his career. What version of him can and will he be?
Yeah, listen, I'm not saying he stinks. I think he can probably score 25 a night. It's just that come playoff time, is he the man every single night like you need to be in the playoffs? Look, you think about the 7th game was Sunday night. They started the playoffs in April, May, all the way through June. You've got to be able to play almost every other night for another 2.5 months to get through that grind.
Yeah, and, the crazy part is these guys aren't used to playing every other night anymore. Most of them don't play every other night throughout the regular season. So it's something new to them come April. It's crazy.
Yeah, by the way, the Phillies lineup just dropped. We'll throw it up on the screen for the people watching on the YouTube channel. It's Turner, Schwarber, Bohm is at first base tonight. Castellanos, Realmuto, Stott is at second. Sosa is at third. Kemp is in left field. Marsh is in center. So you might get a little bit more of this where you get Kemp in left field, Sosa at third, Bohm over at first. That gets Sosa, Kemp, and Bohm all in the lineup. Now, Bohm's going to be in the lineup regardless, but it gets them in the lineup all together because normally they might have done Bohm at third, no Sosa, and Buddy Kennedy at first base. But I think they said, all right, let's go to Sosa at third and put Bohm back to first base. There's your lineup for tonight's game. All right. Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. And I know there's plenty of Phillies talk we can get into as well, but we'll stick with the draft stuff, I guess, for a few minutes, MG. I forget what we were even talking about, Houston and Kevin Durant, but do we want to get into any of the Ace Bailey stuff? I mean,
yeah, I could certainly give you my thoughts on Bailey. I mean, to me, I'm sighing on Bailey 100%. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I like him and still like him a lot as a prospect. Now, for the 76ers, no, I'm out on Ace Bailey. After everything that we've learned, especially recently, I'm out on the kid.
And I don't even care. I don't even care if he goes to Charlotte or Washington or Utah or wherever else and scores 25 a night, and you're like, man,
that's what he wants.
Exactly. He's the good player on the bad team. That's who he is.
Exactly, and that's what he was last year for Rutgers. So good luck down in Charlotte, dude. Or Washington's perfect for him. Washington Wizards, I just see him in Washington playing in front of empty arenas, averaging 22 a night, and it's where he's going to go to die. I mean,
totally agree. I said his first red flag was choosing Rutgers. There's your first red flag.
I guess at first on paper, I kind of loved it. Him and Harper, you're like, all right, they're going to resurrect this university right in our backyard in Jersey, and they didn't do any of that. Here's the weird thing, though. Like, do you think it's a red flag that he's not doing any workouts? Like, I get I don't blame him. I should phrase it as I don't blame him for going about it this way. But for the Sixers, I say I'm not touching them. But if I'm looking at it from his perspective, I'm like, I understand why they're doing that.
If the Sixers have had so many drama-filled situations.
Yeah.
The last thing you need is another drama-filled situation where this guy, he didn't want to work out, then he doesn't want to play here, then it's this, The whole thing is he looks at the Sixers and he says, that team's pretty good. They got Embiid, they got George, they got Maxey. Where are my shots? There's no shots there for me.
Where's his money is what he's thinking. Right, these guys are looking to get to a second contract already, which is crazy because the guy stunk for Rutgers essentially as far as winning percentage goes. But if you're their agent, you're looking to get to their second contract. That's why he wants to go play for Washington. He wants to go lead a team with me and you on it to drop 25 a game and get to $200 million in 4 or 5 years with this real contract.
Yeah, but I would push back on that and say if he gets drafted by the Sixers at number 3, your point is his numbers will not allow him to get the ultimate contract if he's scoring, 11 points a game.
Correct. Because he goes to Philly, he doesn't get the minutes, he doesn't get the shot attempts, he doesn't get the points. In turn, he doesn't get the big contract down the road.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I would say, he gets picked 3rd. I would imagine he would have a role right away on this team. Is he suggesting I'm going to come in and score 25 my first year instead of scoring, 14 my first year?
Yeah, and it says a lot about him, but listen, go get your bag, young man. I'm not like, dude, I don't blame you. Go be selfish. Go try and secure $200 million. I get it. But for Philly, you're also saying kick rocks.
Well, and listen, this thing, the whole, we were laughing about this earlier. It's Sunday night is Game 7. It's the ultimate moment in the NBA. This team wins the title. Nobody cares. The next day, you're traded. The draft is coming up. You're just on to the next one. There is no euphoria anymore of this whole journey to win a title. And you're like, the title is over. The next day, this guy's traded. By Wednesday night, it is time to draft again and start over to start going for the next journey that people are like, okay, they won. What's next? It is kind of I think the draft needs to have a little bit of separation here to make that championship have a little bit of legs to it.
I agree. I also disagree because I get why you want the short turnaround. You want to sort of capitalize on momentum, and this is the NBA's unique time. The NBA doesn't have much time anymore. They already lost Christmas to the NFL. I mean, if you're the NBA, this is your 14-day stretch, right?
I'm just, I get that whole part of it. It's hey, because they do go to training camp in September, but then they have the summer league. But let's say, they made this draft, the second week of August. There's a little build up to the draft after the championship. But that's the whole thing is it's almost the weirdest thing that as fans now, it's almost like you won the championship. Who cares? I just want to build my team. I just want to draft. I want to trade. I want to make trades. I want to draft. I want to move, transact. That's all anybody seems to care about. And the team wins the championship, and you're not even wow, that was unbelievable. They won the championship and all that stuff. It's almost like this whole circle of just building teams constantly and then breaking it down and starting back over and breaking it down and starting back over and break it. It's just we just can't enjoy these seasons anymore.
No, you bring up a good point because it's we've been talking about the Sixers and Ace Bailey and draft prospects, for months. And then you sort of shift to the conference finals, the NBA finals, and then you're oh yeah, let's go back to those conversations that we were having 3-4 weeks ago, but you're only having them for 72 hours. It's a strange dichotomy of, positioning, scheduling wise, to your point.
Yeah, and listen, it's Ace Bailey, this is another thing about a guy who works your whole life. You're playing basketball 3rd grade, 4th grade, 8th grade, high school. At what point do you get to where it's I played all these games? High school, AAU, middle school, college.
Yeah.
To then be a almost not interested in you work your whole life to become an NBA player. That's what you yearn for. And then this is what you do with that opportunity. It's Why did you do all the work if you're ungrateful with the process?
Well, is he ungrateful or is he just looking at it rationally and saying, like, let me figure out how to get the most money possible for me selfishly? The reality is it's really tough for me to end up getting drafted into a situation where I can win a title. Why am I going to be unselfish for people that are not going to look out? Like, I don't know. It's tough how the NBA is set up. I don't blame his thinking, I guess is my point.
I always look at it this way, okay? If you need to think that way, then you don't believe in yourself enough.
Well, I think he's betting on himself because he's like, I want to go be the number one guy somewhere. I don't want to go be the third option somewhere.
I think he is betting on himself to be the big fish in the small pond, and he's saying, I'm not good enough to be the big fish in the big pond, so put me in the small pond.
Yeah.
Whereas if he really thought he was great, let me be great on a team with other stars, and I will outshine those stars.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I also think there's a reality to it of,
well, that's my point.
If Philly drafts you, dude, the reality is you're not getting the reps that Joel Embiid's going to get. You're not going to get the reps that Maxi's going to get. You're not going to get the reps that Paul George is going to. That's just the stone cold reality. You can have all the mentality, the competitive nature. We can talk about all the cliches in the world. The reality is he's going to have the fifth most reps on the Sixers next year if that's where he ends up.
Well, listen, you're the third pick in the draft. You're going to be given an opportunity to make an impact or an impression, I should say, right away.
Yep.
Hey, kid, you're the third pick in the draft. Make an impression. You don't believe in yourself enough that you can make an impression? Because guess what? When Jared McCain got drafted last year, there wasn't like this guy. He got a chance and then made them have to play him.
Right. Look at T.J. McConnell. I mean, the talk of the NBA fight, like you can force teams to talk about you and force teams to play you. Yeah. But that's also the problem with the culture in basketball, is it not? We've talked about this.
Yeah, well, listen, the whole thing.
These guys have been handed everything. Everything. Yeah. Ace Bailey's been handed everything.
Well, I go back to, he was the number 2 recruit in the country. He was being recruited by Kentucky and Kansas. And he said, I got a great idea. I'll go to Rutgers.
Go to Rutgers. Yeah.
That was your first red flag right there. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
So.
Shied away from the bright lights. He's been doing it to your point, since he chose to go to Rutgers.
Now, is there a player? VJ Edgecombe is obviously the player that most people think is going to go there. Would you sigh at them wild card taking somebody other than Bailey or Edgecombe?
I don't think I'd be shocked if they take Bailey at this point, just to put a bow on our Bailey talk. VJ feels like the option right now. Edgecombe feels like the guy, unless the Sixers end up trading back.
Right, but I'm saying if they did something completely like that we haven't, like Trey Johnson, Con Knipple, somebody else, would you sigh at that? Like, is there somebody else that you like and you're like, I wouldn't hate it if they took this guy because we're out on Bailey.
Right.
Are you in love with Edgecombe, or would you say, I wouldn't sigh if they took this guy?
I think there's a lot of good options, which is why it gives them the opportunity to possibly trade back. Like, I like Trey Johnson a lot. He's been talked about as maybe going 7th or 8th. So if the Sixers trade back with the Brooklyn Nets and they're in that 7-8 range and you end up with another pick in the future, right? Like, yeah, I think he's a great option. I think Derek Queen is someone that's interesting who can go from anywhere from 7 to 20 in this draft. If he falls out of the top 15 at Derek Queen, if you're Daryl Morey, do you say, let me try and trade up at the end of the first round, right? So I think there's a lot of depth in this draft, and there's a lot of options if you're Daryl Morey. So, yeah, I think depending on what phone calls you're making, what phone calls you're receiving, the Sixers have a ton of options tonight.
All right, well, I can't wait. Tonight, finally, the draft, pick number 3. You can listen to it right here on 97.3 ESPN, and, of course, round 2 on Thursday night on 97.3 ESPN. That is today's Rye or Sigh. I think we're both sighing on Bailey. Yeah. I'm in on Edgecombe. I wouldn't mind if that was the night, but I feel like something tomorrow we're going to be talking about more than just VJ Edgecombe.
I hope you're right, man. I'm here for it.
All right, we'll talk to you, man.
Later, man.
There's Rye or Sigh. Ryan Rothstein is, of course, a part of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. Hey, don't forget, tomorrow we are live on location. You can come out and see the show on location at the Tuckahoe Inn in Marmora, Beasley's Point, the Beasley's Point section of Upper Township, Marmora? I don't know. I'm confused with that whole zip code thing.
Listen, when you drive over there tomorrow, okay, because I know exactly the way you're going to take from here.
Well, there's only one way to get there.
Right. But I know. But
What do you mean you know exactly the way? You're acting like it's a secret.
Well, it's the same way I drive every single day to and from work.
So there's only one way to get to Tuckahoe.
There's actually more than one, but I digress.
Is there another road I'm not aware of?
Well, instead of taking the Parkway, you could go through Ocean City.
Well, yeah, but I mean, ultimately, once I get to Upper Township, I can only make a right down that road.
Yeah, when you make a right, there's a sign right before it with a little arrow that says this way to Beasley's Point.
Mm-hmm.
And then about...
Is it possible that Beasley's Point is the left-hand side of the street and Marmora is on the right-hand side of the street?
Because I was going to say 2 miles down Route 9, you will see a sign. And you can look at that on Google Maps if you want. It says, welcome to Beasley's Point. And then about a mile and a half after that sign is where the Tuckahoe is.
Well, we will find out tomorrow.
So when you see those signs...
Ask the people that work there. What town are we in?
When you see those signs, you will understand. The signs are there.
All right, tonight the draft. Tomorrow we're at Tuckahoe Inn. Stop out and be a part of the show. Tomorrow from 2 to 6, we'll have the Lombardi Trophy on hand, the Eagles replica Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl 57 jewelry. It's a big piece of jewelry, by the way. You can get your picture taken with that all day long. When we come back, we're going to talk to Eagles front office member and former Eagles linebacker Connor Barwin. Joins us next. All right, 5:51, time for the Bet365 play of the day. I think I was 2-1. I lost the WNBA game, but I got you 2 baseball wins. So if you took the 2 and bet them singularly, I got you some money. If you put them all together, I apologize.
That's why I said, is it single or parlay? And you said, no, these are single picks. People want to parlay. That's on them.
Well, that's all the picks. You can do what you want with the picks. These are my plays. If you want to do them as singles or put them all together. Now, you put them all together, you get a little better value. But if you did bang, 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 said I don't trust your WNBA judgment, which I am now 4-2, I believe, on the WNBA.
That is correct.
All right. So 2-1 night last night gets me to
185, 125, and 1.
185, 125, and 1. Those are good numbers, everybody. I got a 3-pack for you. Baseball tonight. If you put them all together, you're going to get 462. Plus 462. That's good value. Mariners, Mets, Rangers. That's my 3 plays tonight. Bet365
These
play
are outright
of
plays,
the day.
right?
These are all money line winners because, you put the money line winners together. You put 3 of them together. You get plus 462. $10 gets you $56. It's a nice little return for the Wednesday night.
But I'm just clarifying. You're saying individually, people
Yeah,
the picks.
You can do what you want with them, people.
Exactly.
Some people say I might not like that matchup. You got George Kirby. I'll always roll with Kirby in that spot there. The numbers for Ryan in this spot are just not good. Joe Ryan pitching there tonight. Also, the Mets are playing the Braves, by the way. And Jacob deGrom. I'm going to throw a couple bucks on deGrom against the Orioles. And that's my Bet365 play of the day. By the way, Phils, we gave you the lineup earlier tonight. They're going up against Hunter Brown. Phils are plus 118 tonight. Christopher Sanchez with plus money.
By the way, it's Holmes versus Fuentes for the Mets-Braves game. Holmes, we know who he is. Fuentes has a 7.2 ERA.
All right, so that about do it for me. By the way, a couple things. Tomorrow, we are on the road. We are at Tuckahoe Inn in Beasley's Point, Upper Township. There you go. We'll be there from 2 to 6. We'll have the Lombardi Trophy special for you. Come on out, see the show, have a couple of happy hour Friday starts to the weekend with us. I know it's only a Thursday, but we'll have some fun out there tomorrow at Tuckahoe Inn. I believe we are going to be outside tomorrow, from what I understand. So we will be on the outside area at Tuckahoe Inn tomorrow. I think I have an air conditioner coming with me, so I'll hang out underneath the air conditioner. I'm just kidding on that one there. But tomorrow on this Thursday edition, don't forget, we'll be live at Tuckahoe Inn. And if you have not had a chance to come out and see us with the Super Bowl trophy, stop out and see us. It's a great opportunity. Just get your picture taken. Put that thing up on the wall in your house or your game room or your man cave or the family room or whatever. But when you walk in and see the trophy, it's a stunning look.
It's a showstopper. It's one of those things where you stop immediately when you see it.
I mean, even if it was like a Fisher Price plastic.
I don't know about that.
The Super Bowl trophy.
Well, remember when they brought it into the studio here? Like, you and I both stopped what we were doing, and we're like, whoa.
It's very nice.
There it is.
It's very nice to see in person. Come out and see us. Can't make it tomorrow. Friday, we're at Ventnor Social in Ventnor from 2 to 6 on Happy Hour Friday.
You can confirm that it's Ventnor.
I will tell you that it's in Ventnor, New Jersey. It's not some wonky zip code. It is in Ventnor. Next week, by the way, the beginning of July, and we will be on the road in July. Our first Phillies watch party will be at Yuri's in Wildwood on July the 2nd. Phillies day games every Wednesday in the month of July and August. Make an appointment for Phillies watch parties at Yuri's in Wildwood. We will be there starting July the 2nd. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Best of the Sports Bash. Up next, the draft follows.